Welcome into Hoopsville, everybody, on this Monday. If you've got questions for us, I am your host, Dave McHugh, and we would love to take them. You can contact us at Hoopsville at d3sports.com. That's on your email address. That's Hoopsville at d3sports.com. You can also join us on Twitter at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, as we mentioned. You can join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Lots of ways you can join us. You can also find us many places, whether it's our main page at d3hoops.com/Hoopsville, the show page, which, actually, we're going to have to change that info that I got on the screen. I tried to get fancy and, whoops. That's incorrect. We'll fix that in a moment. And also, you can also get a hold of us via social media at D3Hoopsville on hashtag, at D3Hoopsville on Twitter, hashtag Hoopsville. You can also find us on Instagram there, by the way, at D3Hoopsville. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, YouTube, youtube.com/D3Hoopsville. And you can find us, am I forgetting anywhere? I think we got it all covered. Simulcasting on Facebook and YouTube as well. Most importantly, we are at 80% of our way to our fundraising campaign. And we're hoping that you will consider, if you have not already, joining us on the cause. You can find our information on Venmo. You can just look up Dave McHugh on Venmo. You can also go to Give Butter, which is that QR code on the screen if you happen to be watching. Use that QR code, or we've got links on our social media to donate to the cause. We would love to get to our goal by the end of tonight. Not that far off, to be honest. But we'll see what we can do. But any help you can give us would certainly be appreciated, and we would certainly appreciate it as well. And there you go. So what happened this weekend? Anything in particular? Great weekend of basketball in Division III, to say the least. Upsets aplenty, of course, which the NCAA tournaments bring us, right? I mean, this is what we expect in the NCAA tournaments. We expect to see some upsets. We expect some things to go chalk. Not everything goes chalk. And we end up with committees that have to make tough decisions on who hosts the next weekend. Let's just take a quick look at some of the things that stood out. By the way, I was at Johns Hopkins. I thought Mitchell played pretty well in their game against the Blue Jays, who seemed, I don't think the Blue Jays looked sluggish coming out, but they definitely seemed like they got a little surprised a little bit by Mitchell's intensity. Mitchell played well, but Mitchell just didn't have the firepower to stay with Hopkins despite how desperate or I don't mean desperate in a bad way. I just mean how desperately they tried to stay in the match. Hopkins just has too many weapons, even without Tom Quarry. That's the first time I got to see them in person playing without Tom Quarry. Certainly a difference, but I wouldn't say they're not bad. They're still a pretty good team. Mitchell played well. It ultimately came down to not having enough firepower, not enough bench, etc. I mean, we're talking about a school of 500. Their coach was hysterical throughout the game, making comments towards me. I got a good laugh out of him. The Hamilton-Montclair State game was just as good as I thought it would be. Interesting enough, I chose Montclair State, I thought, would be the one who came out of that as the winner ahead of time, and I'm surprised I did choose that. Maybe I was drinking too much of the NJAC Kool-Aid. Hamilton is a good team, and what's scary about Hamilton is they bring everybody back. So they're going to continue to be a good team moving forward. Adam Stockwell's squad had a lot of different options. They're big inside. They also have great outside shooters, physical guys, old Duncan Robinson-esque who can control the ball. Not surprising for an SCAC school, right? Halftime on the second round game against Hopkins, not surprised. At halftime, it was tied at 30-30. I was more impressed with how Hopkins played in the second half. They stymied Hamilton for good chunks of it. Their defense played pretty well. They continued to shoot well. Hamilton kind of went into a funk shooting-wise. Singh, their main ball handler, was apparently injured in the first half. I missed exactly how he injured himself. Some thought it was an ankle. Some thought it was a knee. And it sounds like he removed himself from the second half. I don't know all the particulars, but he never played a second in the second half. And I think that hurt him a little bit because he actually started the game against Hopkins really well, hit a couple big shots that I thought gave Hamilton some momentum in that game. But Hamilton looked like they were about to be down and out, timely timeout called, and Stockwell's squad responded and got it to within 4. And at one point I thought, well, maybe the tides have turned, but then Hopkins put its foot down and ended up winning the contest. So they're on to the next weekend. They'll head down to Randolph-Macon where they'll take on Wisconsin-Whitewater, who did a really good job coming out of their pod. Not only getting the win over Wabash 80-73, but a hard-fought win over Case Western 78-75. Case was down for a good chunk of it, and then I saw them come back. I was actually watching the game while public addressing my game. Saw them come back and take the lead, and I thought, all right, Case is back in it. This is a good sign. And then I don't know how long the run was. It felt like 12 points. Maybe it was less, maybe even a little more. But Whitewater took back control of the game, and Case had to come from behind. The fact that it was only a 3-point win for Whitewater, I think, says a lot for how much Case fought to get back into that game. But Whitewater moves on to take on Johns Hopkins, and then the big matchups, Randolph-Macon versus Oswego there in Ashland. Below that pod, Rowan had a big battle against Cal Lutheran. I'm not surprised in the slightest, despite Cal Lu being 13-13. We saw what they did in the SCIAC tournament. I think they certainly deserved the fight, as it were. And Rowan got a game there, but ended up winning by 6. Took on Utica in the second game, who had gotten past Babson and got the win over Utica 83-72. Hope got past Bethany Lutheran. I think that surprised some. It's how I picked it. Maybe I was underselling Bethany Lutheran compared to others. Oshkosh got past Fontbonne, and so it was Rowan and Oshkosh coming up. North Park, big win over Swanee, and then a great game against WashU. Another game where you saw one team lead and then another team come back. WashU looked like they had that game maybe in control, and North Park came back on them. And it seemed like WashU player lost track of what happened at the end of the game. I think he lost track of the clock. It was funny because they were in a timeout, so I went to go do a couple of other things and come back to it. And by the time I got back to it, it was over, and I couldn't rewind for some reason. No, I'm thinking of a different game. I apologize. It wasn't that game. That was another game that I couldn't go back to. Lancaster Bible with the win over NYU. Hats off to Lancaster Bible. That was a big win. Big shot at the end to take the 3-point lead. NYU couldn't answer, get the victory. Really impressed with Lancaster Bible there, though Mount Union went and thanked them for coming to the tournament and ended their tourney in the second round, 90-66. So Mount Union against North Park, Oshkosh, and Rowan, all being played in Mount Union. Swarthmore had an easy time with SUNY Delhi, and then easily got past St. John Fisher. To the Swarthmore broadcaster, it's St. John Fisher. St. John Fisher. Tufts got past Widener. I wouldn't say easily, but comfortably. And then Keene State got past Baruch. Those games played at Keene State in a great atmosphere there. And so it would be Keene State versus Swarthmore. A little deja vu. A little deja vu. The game will be in Swarthmore to add to the deja vu. Nichols got past Rochester 74-71 in a pretty good battle there. The Bison playing well. And then got past Middlebury 73-66 for the record. And people do see this because I have shared my bracket with somebody. I'm not sharing it publicly, but I have shared it with a few people. I predicted Nichols to get to this point. And to beat those two particular opponents, by the way. Mary Washington got past St. Lawrence. Stockton past LaRoche. Admittedly, I went for the surprise of LaRoche being Stockton. That was my little twist on my bracket. I didn't get that one right. Stockton got past Mary Washington, so it'll be Nichols and Stockton, Swarthmore and Keene State in Swarthmore. In the lower right, it'll be Christopher Newport and Mary Hardin-Baylor taking each other on. Christopher Newport actually had a battle with Farmingdale State. Had to come from behind, 10 down at halftime for the Captains to win that one. Hampden-Sydney had a good battle with Emory, and then Christopher Newport thanked Hampden-Sydney on a tremendous season and asked them to end their season in the second round. East Texas Baptist got past St. Thomas, Texas. Really good win there for ETBU, who's been playing really well recently. Mary Hardin-Baylor and Schreiner had a battle to the end that Mary Hardin-Baylor ended up winning. And then Mary Hardin-Baylor needed a buzzer beater to defeat East Texas Baptist, which reminds me, we're going to have to call that one up. I had forgotten to get it ready for us to view, but we'll get it ready to view later in the program. Wheaton is on to the Sweet 16 after Carleton got knocked off by St. Norbert in a good win by the Knights. Wheaton got past Illinois College and then dispatched St. Norbert in a good battle. St. Norbert, that was back and forth in that one. Williams got past Pomona Pitzer. That was the other one I picked. I picked Pitzer. St. Joseph's got past Chatham, and then St. Joseph's dispatched Williams. Now, it was interesting because Williams actually came back in the second half to start that half. I think 16-4 run last I checked and got back into that game, and then St. Joseph's woke up in the second half and ended it. So that'll all be at CNU. Christopher Newport, Mary Hardin-Baylor, and then Wheaton, St. Joe's. I'm looking forward to seeing some games. I'll tell you where I'll go later in the program. Got to get to this quickly. We do have women to talk about, and then I have some quick news. I'll breeze through the women. We'll dive in the bracket a little bit more later. Smith and Mary Washington will face each other along with Trinity and Whitewater. Interestingly enough, I didn't pick this up until now. Whitewater is in the exact same part of the bracket for both men and women. That's going to be played at Smith. By the way, the men, 5 flights the second weekend. We'll get to the women in a minute. Transylvania will host Ohio Northern, Trine and NYU on the other side of that. You then got in the lower right, Babson will face Marietta, and Chicago will face Rhode Island College. Those games at Babson could have maybe argued going to U Chicago. It didn't matter. 6-1, half dozen the other. They're going to Babson. And then Christopher Newport, Wartburg will face off, and Trinity, Texas, Tufts will face off. That will be at Tufts. And unfortunately, I think it's at Tufts. Listen, if you look at the data, and certainly you can make an argument that Tufts has the better criteria, win-loss is easily, remember, Christopher Newport can't host. They're technically the one in position here to host, but they can't host because the men are hosting. Trinity, Texas has the win-loss percentage by a slam dunk on Tufts. Trinity was 6-1 versus regionally ranked opponents. Tufts was 9-5. Trinity had a 521 SOS. Tufts had a 625 or something. Monstrously different SOS numbers. And this is where I've made the argument, first off, that at some point some of this data has to have no more pull. I don't think that ever applies with win-loss. I think win-loss, it always has the pull. You no longer ignore it. But with strength of schedule, I think at some point you just can't tabulate that. And with results versus regionally ranked opponents, at some point you just can't tabulate it anymore. It grows to a point where it's hard to fathom. But Tufts had, 6 losses on the season? 5 of them were against regionally ranked opponents. At the end, they were against regionally ranked opponents, I should add, along with 9 victories. Pretty impressive. The SOS, stellar, absolutely. This was a chance where you knew you were flying 3 teams to do something different, and there could have been a ton of justification outside of the data to go to Trinity. And I know there have been some in New England who might have complained, and I would have said, you know what, I understand that, but we have a chance to go to Texas where we never get to go, and they have criteria that certainly deserves it, including their win-loss percentage. I think they deserve to be the hosts here. The committee didn't feel that way. As Pat pointed out, this seems to be a miss. And listen, we don't have to agree with everything the committee does, and that's okay. That's what our position is here, to state our opinions and our thoughts on things. We don't have to be in lockstep, and in this case, I'm not in lockstep. I think the committee had an opportunity. I think they feel maybe they had no choice. I don't think that's the case. Now, they did technically set up Tufts to be in this position, being in the bottom of this quad, and Trinity being in the middle. They did state this at the beginning, that Tufts was going to probably be the likely choice, but I don't think you had to stick to it. We have 3 sectionals in Massachusetts, none in Texas, and as Pat said on a tweet, and he said elsewhere, when Region 10 or the Southwest, SCIAC, Northwest, or especially those in Texas, claim that they aren't respected in Division 3, this is going to be Exhibit A, and it is going to be Exhibit A. The win-loss for Trinity, I think, could have made the argument. And I know that the Women's Committee has tried to keep win-loss from being the overwhelming argument as it has in the past. And I agree. I respect that. I appreciate that they've made that effort. But this is also where I think the men have strayed away from win-loss. And I hope the women don't stray away from win-loss. And there are times I think win-loss needs to win the argument. And in this case, I think Trinity deserved to have that. Worst case, you could still put it on, hey, listen, they've got a bigger facility. They're going to attract more people, maybe. We're going to have the games there because it's got more seats. That could have been your argument, because that is part of the argument allowed. But I digress. We'll talk more about it later in the program. Another thing we will hit later in the program is Linfield basketball. Linfield men's basketball has put their head coach on probation, or a suspension, a better word, due to an incident that took place at a game at Whitworth apparently a couple of weeks ago. It is making the headlines. Fans, alum, players are not happy. We have not got a lot of details on it, but we'll certainly try and tackle it a little bit later and see where this sits, because it's an interesting development. I heard a week or two ago to keep my eyes on Linfield, and admittedly, because the NCAA tournament, I couldn't keep my eyes peeled on Linfield, but it didn't work out. I didn't keep track of it, but to say the least, there's something's up, and we're gonna have to figure it out. But their head coach, Rosenbaum, is I said that name wrong, didn't I? He is sitting right now, frustratingly so for a lot of his players. Maybe, granted, they're not playing. Rosenberg, I knew I had it wrong. I apologize, Shannon Rosenberg. I knew I got that wrong. They had a 10-15 campaign this year. The game in question was the final game of the regular season, final game of their season against, actually second to last. It was at Whitworth, where they lost 79-66. They played Whitman the next day. I believe the game was at Whitworth. But to be honest with you, now that I say that out loud, I think I'm wrong. I think it was at Whitman. It was at Whitman. So it was their final game of the season on the road. We're going to dive into it a little bit later because I don't have time now. We got guests lined up to go to, and so we'll get to it. But he's on suspension right now, apparently for an interaction after the game, and I'm not sure where that resides and where the future is, and if this just isn't maybe also some other things going on behind the scenes that we can't really put our fingers on. Let's talk about guests coming up 7:20 tonight. Next, we should say, Nichols men's basketball coach Brock Erickson will join us to talk about the Bison and their run to the Sweet 16. Marietta coach Kole Vivian will join us. We'll talk about the women's program's run to the Sweet 16 themselves. They will be taking on, as we mentioned just a moment ago, Babson up in Massachusetts. Then we'll talk to Mary Washington's Deena Applebury. The Eagles came from behind to win their game against DeSales, and will now play Smith. That'll be a good battle. Then we'll talk to number 17th ranked Mary Hardin-Baylor men's coach Clif Carroll. We'll talk about their incredible weekend and if they can get the job done heading out to Newport News, Virginia. Number 1 Christopher Newport women's basketball coach Sondra Fan will join us to talk about she's the senior guard on that team. We'll talk about the captains so far this season and their trip to Massachusetts. And Wisconsin-Whitewater men's basketball coach Pat Miller will join us to talk about his team and their terrific run to the Sweet 16 as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studio. Many of you have been wonderful contributors to our campaign, and we certainly appreciate it. Please continue to do so, and we'll continue to add to that tote board. We are 80% on the way to our goal, and would love to close it out as soon as we can. In the meantime, we'll talk more about our partners and more about our guests when we come back. Hope you're enjoying this one. This should be a good one as we start to look ahead to the Sweet 16. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships, and we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're doing well. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we're live simulcasting the show. We're also live simulcasting on YouTube at youtube.com/D3Hoopsville. And thanks to our partners at Hudl Blue Frame Technology, where we're able to do those simulcasts as well. That's kind of the cool little trick about their technology, and we appreciate their support of our program. You can watch us on Team One Sports at team1sports.com/Hoopsville, or you can watch us on the Team One Sports app, whether it's on your Bluetooth, that's not right, on your Apple TV, Android TV, Roku TV, etc. Anybody that's got Team One Sports, you can watch us on the big screen. And I apologize, I did not shave today, so you're going to see that. Let's talk men's basketball. Nichols men's basketball. The Bison are on to the NCAA Tournament Sweet 16. Certainly maybe caught some by surprise, but I'll admit I actually had them winning and getting to this point. That doesn't mean I'm right. It just means I happen to guess right. This is a team that I actually had in my preseason top 25. I thought they would have a pretty good season. It seemed like they had some good pieces coming together, but what do I know half the time? We want to learn more when we talk about these things from their head coaches. So joining us on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline, it's the aforementioned head coach, the Nichols Bison. It's Brock Erickson. Coach, first and foremost, congratulations not only on the Triple C title, but you've got a long winning streak going right now, and it's got you to the second week of the NCAA tournament. This has got to be amazing for the program.
It really is. Yeah, it's great for the program. 19 wins in a row, the most in program history. Our guys have really found a way to gel together and come together when we needed to, and we've gone on a great run. And obviously, winning 2 games this past weekend and getting to the Sweet 16 is an unbelievable accomplishment, and I'm just really proud of our guys and can't wait to get to Friday.
Yeah, I mean, 19-game winning streak is saying it lightly, and well, I should say is amazing saying it lightly. Let me go back to the beginning. I mentioned I had you guys in my top 25 in the preseason. I saw a lot of the pieces you guys brought in, transfers from other levels, and usually I don't buy in. And a lot of people take the example of John Carroll. I didn't buy in when they brought in all their transfers, but they were coming from a sub-500 season. You guys were coming from a 21-9 campaign. It's not like you guys – this program hasn't been good for a number of years, but you guys struggled a little bit coming out of the gate. Lost the second game to Eastern Connecticut. Lost your fifth game to Middlebury, 91-80, which obviously you avenged in the second round. Lost to Roger Williams, 87-67. And then at the turn of the new year, lost to Albertus Magnus in Western New England. What clicked between that start, or what was going on in that start? Was it about the team gelling, and what clicked that got you guys to where you are now?
Great. Yeah. It was. I think it was a combination of a lot of different things. Number one, we returned a couple of guys that played significant minutes, and then we had a couple of other returners that didn't make it with us, and it was the gelling piece. You're 100% correct with that. We had 3 or 4 new players that are all really, really talented guys that hadn't played basketball competitively at the collegiate level because of injuries and because of transferring. So we struggled early with trying to come together as a team. We took our lumps early, and I think at the end of the day, we kind of just had to figure out, are we going to try to win a championship in the NCAA tournament, or are we going to be individuals just trying to, score points and go for our own stuff? And the turning point, kind of to your point, was early in the season. We took a couple lumps. We got rid of a couple guys. We had a big team meeting, and we kind of figured it out, but not quite where we needed to be. And then after the new year, losing to Albertus and then losing to a really, really good Western New England team, the guys came together and said, hey, we're not going to do this on our own. We've got to do this as a team. And the players decided to really just become unselfish, play together, and understand that, the more you play as a team, the more accolades and the more success we're going to have individually. And I think that stemmed right from the top from our two best players, our two returning players in Matt Electus and Ja'Kai Dotton.
Well, listen, looking back at the losses, the one thing also keep in mind, all but one were NCAA tournament teams. You had Albertus Magnus, who knocked off St. Joe's, who ended up in the tournament, and actually, for a while there was having a pretty good first-round game. Middlebury, as we mentioned, you faced them. Trinity, Connecticut. Roger Williams is the lone exception there. Western New England didn't make the tournament. Obviously, I should have mentioned them too. But they had a great season. They really did. They were one of those that I think was off everybody's radars, having a tremendous run in the LEC. So those weren't really bad losses. They just, for a team like yourself, I'm suspecting they didn't feel good for all your reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming off of the year we had last year where we went to the NCAA tournament, and we returned Ja'Kai Dotton, who was an All-American last year, and Matt Electus, who averaged 14 points per game last year. And we had, Ty Rucker, who got injured last year, who we were expecting big things from last year, who averaged 17 points per game for us this year. With that nucleus, and then the guys that we brought in, we thought we were going to be able to pull it together much earlier and be better in our preseason and our non-conference schedule. But we had some issues, and we had a couple of guys that started the year before that are no longer with us because they weren't doing the things that we wanted to do here at Nichols, and we eventually figured it out. And I think that's the mark of a great team, is you never know when your team is going to gel. It could be in the beginning of the season, it could be in the middle of the season, it could be at the end of the season, or it could not happen, and then you underachieve for your talent level. And I think what happened was our guys, and mostly because of Matt Electus and Ja'Kai Dotton figuring it out together, they gelled at the right time, and then we ended up going on, obviously, the run that we're on right now. And it's because of their maturity and their competitive maturity that they wanted to win and try to make a run in the NCAA tournament to win a national championship.
Well, I'm kind of curious, how much does that drive and that willingness to finally win come into play when you're down 20 points to Rochester in the first round, and it looks like, all right, great run, guys. It's all coming to an end here against the Yellow Jackets. Is that one of those timeouts where you have the conversation, go, hey, what do we do with all this for?
Absolutely. And I think the other piece to that one too, we had been down before, obviously not like that, not in the situation where it's a season-ending game, but because we have older guys that have been through some stuff like that, we weren't going to shoot a 20-point shot. We were just going to have to chip away. And, the one thing that we've talked about all year is we have to play Nichols basketball the way that we play and not worry about what's happening. We missed a couple of really good looks early in that game that just didn't fall. And they made some shots, that they didn't make in the second half that they were making in the first half. So we kind of just had to just stay the course and just keep doing what we're doing and just try to play Nichols and just don't get ahead of ourselves.
Talk a little bit about these guys. You've talked about them a bit, but I want to know a little more details. You've got Matt Electus, who's a defensive player of the year, but he averages a whole monster 19 double-doubles this season. 19 out of, quick math, 30 games is pretty amazing. He's also 10th in rebounds per game in the nation. Tell me a little bit about him and then how he helps make the rest of the team click.
Absolutely. Matt, 2 years ago, prior to coming to Nichols, Matt was told by a doctor that he'd never play basketball again because of a back injury. And, he persevered. He went through rehab on his own. He did a lot of things in order to get himself back into condition in order to play. So when he got here last year, he was a great individual player. This year, he's now, become a great team player and a great leader. He led our team in rebound. He led the league in rebounds. He led the league in block shots. And, he transferred from another school where he played the 3. With us, he's playing the 5, and he's playing the middle of a 2-3 zone. So he's done a lot of things that he wasn't accustomed to. And to his credit, he really bought into, hey, coach, you tell me what you need me to do. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I think the other players on the team have really rallied around that part of his game, where he was once just a shooter / scorer, and he became, one of the toughest defensive players in the league, the defensive player of the year, that, is top 10 in rebounding, top 10 in blocks. And he's only 6'4".
Yeah, only. Yeah, only 6'4". Leads the team. You got Rucker at 16.5, Jones at 16.5, Doughton at 15, and Farabee at 14. That's the other scary part. You got 5 guys who are averaging double figures, and not barely double figures, solid double figures. Defensively, that's tough to mark up, but to some point, is that a hint of what maybe you guys were all struggling with at the beginning? There's a lot of guys, a lot of mouths to feed, as it were, a lot of guys who can put points up.
Absolutely. We have a really talented group, and a lot of guys can score. I think all 5 of those players have led our team in scoring in at least one or more games this season. And trying to get those guys to understand that the more that the other players score, the easier it is for them to score.
Yeah. And
trying to understand that with these guys was a difficult thing early in the season, but they started to figure it out late, and we've peaked at the right time with that, and now they understand it. And now our guys, like when I'm in a huddle and I'm drawing up a play for one of our guys, I drop a play for Quincy Farabee, and he'll say, hey, coach, Ja'Kai Dotton's actually playing great, and he's got the great mismatch. Why don't you run this for Ja'Kai? And our players have done that, and they've been amazing at it. And that's been the turning point. This is the most unselfish group I've ever coached. It's the most selfless kids that I've ever had, and it's because they all have one common goal and one agenda this year, and it's just winning and winning at a really high level.
Again, 5 players averaging 13.5 or better, certainly playing well. What's interesting is, by the way, you took over the program in 21. You guys have had 14 games, 5 points or less. You've won them all. So you also figure out how to get out of games the hard way, as it were. Seems like there's a lot of resilience, a lot of opportunities for the team to learn, but at the same time have learned. How do you then pivot? Go into the Sweet 16, place Nichols has been before, back in 2019, but obviously this group, not necessarily. How do you guys focus on now the bigger spotlight, more pressure, unless the pressure was higher at some point in the season, I'm not aware, and obviously a lot more riding on it. Yes, game ends the season. We already know that, but the chance to be in Fort Wayne now is so close.
Absolutely. One thing that gets overlooked, because of our style of play, we're 7th in the country in scoring. We're known as an offensive team, but
Fair.
In this 19-game winning streak, our field goal percentage defense is top 20 in the country. It's about 40.1%, and our 3-point field goal percentage defense is also top 50 in the country. And I think that piece of it with our guys, they understand that when we play the defense that we're capable of playing, number one, it makes it really difficult, obviously, for the other teams to score, but also it starts our fast break, it starts our offense. So our players have really bought into the fact that the harder and tougher they are defensively, the easier shots we're going to get, the more points we're going to score. And, we kind of try to, we're going to score 80, 85 points per game. And because of our defense, we've been holding teams to under 70 or 71 points per game these last 19 games.
You will take on Stockton, who can shoot pretty well from outside, interesting enough that you bring that up. Pretty solid defensive themselves. And I know you're not looking ahead, but on the other side, you've got Swarthmore on their side of the pod, and they'll be playing Keene State, who's a beast in a program that you're kind of familiar with being in that region. What do you see? I know it's early because you haven't dove into enough tape here, but what do you see in Stockton? What are you expecting from that game?
Well, no, I've dived into a lot of Stockton's film. I was watching it on the bus ride home from Middlebury. And, obviously they are extremely talented. They're a great team. I mean, Campbell's got to be one of the best guards in the country, if not the best scoring guard in the country. I mean, he was a first-team All-American last year. I'm sure he's going to be an All-American this year. They're a great team. They're really well coached. They win every year. They're a perennial powerhouse, and we're going to have to just do what we do and really just try to limit their 3-point touches, limit their 3-point attempts, and just try to, just play our game and force them into tough contested twos, which is what we've been doing all year.
Curious, you're come from Bryant, Division II, to Bryant, we should point out. I always get that one confused sometimes as to where Bryant's located, but you've been all over. You've been to Eastern Utah. You've been to Monroe College. You were at CCNY at one point. You played collegiately at Assumption at one point, Rhode Island College as well. You've certainly been to a lot of different institutions. What is it about Nichols that drew you here in this Division III experience that you're getting? And what's it, this tournament is different than ones you've been in too.
Yeah. Nichols College, I grew up in Worcester. It's about 20 minutes away from Worcester. The new president came from Bryant, where I was the associate head coach. And I think his vision of, having a basketball program that's nationally known and really trying to build this program into a perennial powerhouse and being a nationally known program. That's one of the things that drew me to this. And Nichols is a great institution. We're a top 40 business program in the country. And I felt as though I really wanted to be a head coach. I really wanted to try to get back to being a coach and coaching in the Northeast. And I felt like Nichols was the place to do that. And obviously these last 2 years, I've started to try to build something here that I think can really last for the long haul.
You should point out, by the way, those weren't all the schools you've been to. I skipped a few,
That's right.
like Iona and some others. By the way, I assume you were attracted also because it's the Bison and made you think of Eastern Utah. You just thought, yeah, of course, that makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. One other question. There's been reporting, and if there's some arrows right now, they could all point at myself, that Nichols is going to pivot and move to Division II at some point. Honestly, by this point, I thought we would have known that if that was happening or not, and I spent half my day double-checking some stuff. But you talk about coming here, building a basketball program, so you're on the recruiting trails trying to keep Nichols where they are and how good they are. There's reports about maybe going to D2. There's others who have speculated on that. And now you've got this NCAA tournament success. It feels like it's got to be one heck of a mismatch when you are out there trying to build a program, because you've got a lot of different things that are both selling and maybe battling. What's it like to try and sell Nichols?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces, but I think at the end of the day, we have a great program. We have a great school. We are trying to go Division II. It's in the works here in the next couple of years. But basically, I really just try to recruit players that understand my vision, that understand my goals, and just want to win at an extraordinarily high level, because that's what I'm about. I've basically won everywhere I've been. I want to win at Nichols, and I want to win at an extraordinarily high level. And this year is testament to that. I want to be able to get to the Sweet 16 and farther every single year, regardless of whether we're Division III or Division II. And that's kind of been the recruiting spiel that I've used with players, and that's kind of been the model, and I guess it's been working fairly well here in my first 2 years. So
we should point out, you get a win, you'll match the program record of an Elite Eight. If you get 2, you'll obviously set the benchmark of getting to the Final Four. Quick question: will you be in Division III next year then?
Yes, we will be.
Okay, so we're a little bit further away from maybe a potential move. So we'll at least see the Bison, which is one of my favorite mascots in the division. So I'm glad to hear that, Brock. Hey, I got to let you go. I would love to talk more with you, but we try and cram more into the show than maybe we should. I appreciate the time that you've given us and the insight you've given us on the Bison. Congratulations on where you are. I look forward to seeing what happens this weekend. We have a tradition on the show. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who might be tuned in?
Yeah, I just want to say that, I'm just really proud of our group. The kids that we have been through a lot, and we're just going to keep trying to find a way to win here and try to find a way to advance to the Elite Eight. We're 40 minutes away from Elite Eight, but we're enjoying the moment. We're really just enjoying the opportunity to play against all these great teams and great rich traditions in the Division III level, and hopefully we can be one of these teams that traditionally makes it to the Sweet 16 every year.
Well, congratulations, as I said again. Tremendous. I feel a little vindicated for my vote in the preseason, though some of that is luck, I do realize. Good luck this weekend. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Brock Erickson joining us on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate the time. Real quick recap. They will be in Division III next year, which is awesome to hear. A big fan of that. But also, this is a team to watch. I think Stockton's going to have a heck of a battle there. And then whoever gets them, Keene State or Swarthmore on the other side. This is going to be a pod. I mean, all four pods are going to be fun to watch. But this one's going to be pretty intriguing, to say the least. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll jump to Ohio, talk Marietta women's basketball. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media. Once again, thanks to the NABC for their support of our program. We appreciate their love. Also appreciate the love of the WBCA, Sport Tours International, and D3Hoops.com. If you want to follow us at D3Hoopsville on Twitter. Hashtag Hoopsville is where the conversation is being had. You can also join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can also join us on YouTube, YouTube.com/D3Hoopsville. We're live simulcasting the show on those last 2 entities. So we'll enjoy having you there. We'll pivot and talk women's basketball now. Another team that's still got their dancing shoes on and heading up to Boston. Kind of the opposite direction Nichols is heading. They're going to Philly, but this one's going from the very southern part of Ohio to the Boston area to play their next round against Babson, who had a pretty good weekend. Marietta, who last year and years past, we talked about their men's program. The women have stolen the spotlight just a little bit, and I'm pretty darn proud, or not proud, but I'm pretty impressed with that, to say the least. Kole Vivian's squad into the second weekend, and I know he's happy about it, so we'll bring him into the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline, and there is said Mr. Vivian. Coach, congratulations on the second weekend. You got to be proud. Seems like the dumbest question to ask, but you got to be proud.
Yeah, I mean, it was really special to go up there and get a big win on Friday night with that, and then kind of following that up with the win on Saturday against another really good team there. So yeah, proud. I mean, there's just a lot of emotion with it.
A lot of emotion, yes. I'm curious though, because when you look at these two games, first off, I thought Eastern Connecticut had a darn good season this year and could trip you up. And then you had on the other side of it an Ithaca team at home who, until the end of the season, honestly, had been ridiculously hard to beat. Interesting enough, they lost 3 of their last 5. What was it about those two games? Because I know from watching, those weren't exactly the same two teams. What was it about those two games that you saw that you were able to take advantage of to get through?
So we knew in the first game against the Warriors, their post play was really good. I mean, Barry. I assume she'll probably be an All-American if there's 20 people in the nation better than her. I'd be really surprised. Dunn was really good for them. They have a great coach. We thought our guard play could be a difference maker for him there. But then Barry goes off for 32 and like 14 or 15, whatever she had. So just kind of back and forth there. We kind of sped them up a little bit with our full court pressure with that. So that was a really good win for us on Friday. We're excited about that. Then on Saturday, Ithaca, that team is unbelievable. They're tall, they're long, they cut really well, they pass really well, they can defend. With that, and then the big thing that we kind of changed in that game, we're down by I think eight points in the second quarter, and I had to call a timeout, which would have been the next dead ball would have been the media timeout with that. But so I had to kind of burn timeout because I was kind of getting away from us a little bit. Then we went zone, and I thought that kind of changed a lot of things for us. We were able to get some stops, and then we couldn't really score a whole lot to the fourth, but then we kind of got rolling a little bit with that.
Well, zone is a nice little twist. I've seen it utilized when necessary. You got to have a team that's ready to pull it out when you've been going mainly man most of the time. I'm curious from a coaching perspective, how do you keep a team on notice and ready to use a zone when you may not use it all the time and especially may not practice? Are you practicing it all the time even if you don't utilize it?
No, I don't think we practice zone. There's a team in our league, Wilmington. We've zoned them from time to time, just because they're so full of drivers. Like they have they can all get to the hoop really well, so we kind of use it there. We don't practice a lot, but I think we got pretty good people in it. We have a pretty good strategy with it, and our team is full of competitors. Like they'll do whatever they can to win. So as a coach, that's kind of fun because you can kind of pull out, hey, we're gonna go zone, we're gonna go man, we're gonna go full court, we're gonna do something different with ball screens. Yeah, and they're always locked in for it. So our team does a great job with like all that stuff.
I listen, I'm always a guy who likes to have the X's and O's games and want to say, all right, you've been playing man, throw the zone out there for a bit. Some coaches are doing it out of timeout. My little trick would be, all right, you call a timeout, you come back, you play the same defense, and then you throw it on the next possession and really throw them curveball. Or even better yet, you throw it out there for 1 or 2, and then you take it off and like, all right, they gave up. No, we're back. But I'm a sick man that way. When it comes to where this team has gone this season, as it were, where you were, where you've been, how you've gotten there, it was interesting because the conference race I thought this year was a bit bonkers. You had Ohio Northern, you had Baldwin Wallace, you had yourselves. Otterbein was even in the mix a bit. And granted, we've seen these teams in the past as well. John Carroll wasn't, so it added a little bit of a twist. I mean, they're in the conference, but they weren't at the top. But it also felt like it was ever changing. How did you guys work your way through the conference, staying just in contact, as it were, to stay in the relevance to be able to be put in a position as you are in the tournament?
So with that, we didn't start off the year great with the conference. We started off 1-2. We lost at Ohio Northern before everybody kind of knew how good they were going to be. We lost at home against Baldwin Wallace. So we were kind of looking up at teams for a while. Then we kind of got off to a pretty good stretch there after that. But then we lost to Capital on the road, beat Northern down here. Then we lost to Otterbein. And at that point, we kind of looked and said, hey, we can't really afford too many more losses here with this if we're going to qualify for the tournament. So we made an adjustment to our starting lineup after that Otterbein game. With that, and I think the way the team bought into like us playing zone and man, they bought into that lineup change big time too. I think that was kind of a big difference maker for us this year with that because the kids we put in the starting lineup, did a really good job getting us to some great starts. And the people who we did have starting bought into it, and now bringing them off the bench, still getting their usual minutes with that has really helped us a ton.
Yeah, it's interesting because you go back to the beginning. You lost to Washington Jefferson out of the gate, and they were a team that was in and out of the top 25 in the conversation much of the season. Then you lost, as you point out, to Ohio Northern, Baldwin Wallace, and Colorado College in a span of 5 games in a span of 16 days. And I'll admit, that can derail a team, especially with the Colorado College loss being in San Juan. Now, you got a win over Kane the next day. That certainly helped right the ship. But then you had time to kind of sit on that. And that can either be wonderful, as it seems like it might have been for all of you. You only lost 2 since then, or 3 since, but 2 kind of the important time there, Capital and Otterbein. Or you can have a team just absolutely unglue themselves at that point. How did you come back, reset the team? And I'm talking about before you got to that Otterbein conversation, before you got to the point of going, we're in trouble, because you went through a good stretch there where you had 5-6 straight wins to at least get some momentum going.
Yeah, we try to kind of focus on our culture here quite a bit with that, and I think that helped. That kind of got us through that tough time too. Like we're looking at, hey, we're 6-4 now. We got to go on a big stretch. We kind of took it day by day with it. It really helps having a 5th-year kid and then 4 other seniors. They're in their normal senior year, and having 6 juniors there. That's something that I think we can kind of really lean on, and having success last year too helped us quite a bit with that too, because they know, hey, at any point here we can go on a really good run. But they show up every day. Our coaching staff's unbelievable. Coach Anderson, I mean, she played here for 4 years, and she's been here 5 years. But Coach Ziliak just came here this past year from Southern New Hampshire, Division II school. Coach Salter, he's actually been here longer than I've been. So kind of having those people around here has really kind of helped us stay on course. But I think our leadership's really good.
I like how you gave everybody their props in a weirder way than I've seen it done in the past. Here's what blows my mind about this team: there's nobody in double figures. You've got 9.3 out of Hefner, 9.3 out of Gribble. Aaron Hahn is 9 points, 6.5 from Paige Tolson. I can keep going. This is a team that only averages 62 points a game. You don't have to score a lot because you're averaging 54 points on defense. So it's like a lot of good teams we talk to, the Hopes, the Amherst, the Trines, et cetera of the world. Starts with defense. You don't have to put a lot of points on the board as a result of that. But no one, yes, you could say that Hefner and Gribble and Hahn are your top 3 scorers, but no one is seemingly your go-to. What's that like, and is that a benefit to some degree?
Yeah, I think it really helps us. And I think it's tough to key on one person. Tolson being our 4th leading scorer. I think you said she's had some really big games for us. We have Hannah Schill this weekend. She had 18 points on Friday, and she can do that from time to time. But I think that's probably her season high with that. Addie Hill hasn't been scoring a whole lot for us yet, but when we beat Ohio Northern, she had I think 13 or so, and that was a win that we definitely needed to have there. With that, Hannah Croft wasn't playing a whole lot to start the year, and then she's had numerous games since we can put her in the lineup of scoring double figures there. So and I could go on and on. I mean, we got a lot of different players that could fill it up, and I think that kind of really helps us with our depth. I think we wore down Eastern Connecticut State on Friday with that, with us playing 12 kids and them playing 7 kids or so with that too. I think that helps the NCAA tournament kind of playing those back-to-back nights too.
Out rebounding your opponents, by the way, as well by about 7, almost 8 rebounds a game. You're holding your opponents to 34% from the floor, though. You're shooting 35. You're holding your opponents at 28 from beyond the arc, but you're shooting 26. There are some stats right there that just don't seem to agree with each other. Obviously, again, it's about defense, but what's the click on the offense side? What is working that we're maybe can't see in the stats?
Well, I think we're really good at the end of games, and I think we showed that Friday, and then we made just enough plays with that on Saturday too. With it, and like we have people that score a little more in the bigger games, like Devin had a really really good game on Saturday scoring for us. We beat Baldwin Wallace here in the OAC tournament. Her and Han really had it going. Gribbles had her fair share too. So I think just the way we play offense with having two post players in there helps our rebounding a lot, and we get a lot of juice from that too.
You sent me a few notes that I do want to touch on. First off, we talked about the changes. I know you kind of hinted at it. You kind of altered how you kind of played the starters, and I don't want to dive into just that. I want to talk about there are players that are amazingly do really well off of a bench, other players who don't seem to do well off of a bench. I was a guy. I think I played a lot coming off the bench. It didn't bother me. It would have been cool to start too, but I didn't see how that had changed me. I didn't see where I was a better starter or better off the bench. How do you figure that out? And how do you figure out players are better starting a game versus maybe coming off the bench?
So we just kind of went with it after we lost to Otterbein. We talked a lot about getting off to a really good start because the people that were starting games for us are all unbelievable players. I mean, they're all conference, all region type players with that. But for whatever reason, we're getting off to slow starts. Like we were down by 17 points to Wilmington. We're fortunate enough to win on the road there. We're down 9 to Otterbein, like 4 minutes in. So at that point, like, hey, you guys are all really good, but for whatever reason, it's just not working. And it's not just one of you guys or two of you guys. Like, it's just not working as a team. So we decided to kind of adjust that a little bit with putting people we thought were a little more high energy to kind of get things going with us. And then, kind of doing that right before we played Baldwin Wallace, who I think was top 10 in the nation at the time. Mm-hmm. We got off to a lot better start. And then, bringing those kids in and off the bench, like that's really tough to match up with. So everybody's doing a great job with it. Everybody bought into it. Madison Cecil, she doesn't play a whole lot of minutes, but she starts every half for us, and like she takes a lot of pride in that, and we need her to take a lot of pride in that. So she does a great job with that. But then we put those other kids in, and they just bring a different dimension to the game off that. But if no one bought into it, I mean, our season would be totally different. Like I was telling Coach Erickson on the way back, like when we played at Baldwin Wallace there and we changed the lineup, if we lose that game or don't play very well in that game, our season could go a lot of different ways. But they bought into it. We got that one, over a really good team, a well coached team, and then that kind of jump started us for the rest of the year.
Quickly, not to derail, but I did get a kick out of your Puerto Rico note. We talked about you went 1-1 out there, but it was more about than the games, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was right after finals week here, and we played John Carroll here on Friday. Then we flew down there on Sunday, but we did a lot of stuff down there. We a lot of team building. We had a really good team talk down there. But yeah, then they went night kayaking. They had a really fun time with that. We went to we got hooked up with a group that took us to the rainforest. So they did some. They did some swings. They went down some water slides. They jumped off some rocks. So they had a pretty good time with that too. Then obviously a lot of beach time. But yeah, we kind of dove into a lot of things there with the environment down there and the culture with ourselves too. So that was really fun for us, and it's always kind of fun to take those big trips, especially right after finals week.
Sure. Okay, so you only allow 42 points for Ithaca in the last round. You're pivoting into the NCAA tournament third round game. You will take on a pretty formidable Babson squad who has done pretty darn well this season, hiding behind the headline that is Smith at this point, and not on purpose. They beat SUNY New Paltz 76-66 and held Maine Maritime to 44. What do you expect?
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, I think their guard play is a little bit different than we've seen all year. They have people that can handle it. They got people that can shoot it. I think they're all their guards are really good, but they're the ones they got in the starting lineup, I think, are unbelievable. They're long inside. Their coach is obviously a legend. Winning over 700 games there too. So, and we're going to their place too. So, which obviously makes things a little more tough. But we're really excited to be in the Sweet 16. But our team here, all competitors. I mean, they're happy with where they are. But they want even more. So, we have a lot of respect for Babson, and we know that we're gonna have to bring it on Friday. But that's kind of how we treat everybody with this too. So we're really excited about it.
I got a question on Twitter that I must ask. It's a pertinent one, if you don't mind. It does say, "Who's Coach Vivian's favorite former assistant coach to work with?"
Oh, geez, who sent that?
I'm just going to warn you. It is a tricky question.
Yeah, my favorite former assistant coach to work with. So this person was also an assistant coach with me.
It appears, yes, I believe that's the history. But what I think is more important is this person can't influence your tournament anymore.
Yeah. Coach Wilson. We had some good times back in the day. And I tell you what, when I was working with Coach Wilson, that was a coaching staff, because you had Coach Egner, who was obviously done everything. Megan, who won at every single level she's been at. Then there was me just trying to kind of learn as much as I could and let's not screw things up. So we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun for sure.
And I say she can't influence your tournament any longer because you win, you're still at Babson for the next round, and then you win, you're going to Trinity, Connecticut for the semis, and if you win and happen to go to the title game, you're in Dallas. That's all been preset. There can't be any messing with you, so I figured it was a safe question to dive into with that one. Hey, congratulations. Tremendous. I know the buzz. Marietta loves her basketball. We know that, and I know the men have gotten plenty of attention. We've tried to give you some attention over the years, but you're still playing right now. And we congratulate you for that. I know that's a significant milestone for the program. Good luck against Babson coming up. As always, we give the guests the final word. Unless you want to say more to Megan, literally the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I just want to thank a lot of people. Our community here is unbelievable. Like we got back last night at 7:00. It was a long drive. So we get back, and we probably had 150 people here waiting for us. We had the president of college, athletic director, we had faculty, we had staff, we had other coaches here. Coach Vanderwall, came and wished us luck on that. So that's really special. So I want to say thank you to everybody kind of involved with that. I'm just really proud of our team. I mean, it hasn't been the storybook year that you always kind of want years to be, but they grinded through here and to get to this point right now with hopefully more to come is really special. I want to say hi to my family, Christy and Scarlett. I don't know if they're watching, but I'll show them when I get home. And then Dave, thanks for everything that you do here. Shining a light on Division III women's basketball. I think this is a pretty darn cool to kind of help grow the game with that and everything that you do with that. So thank you very, very much for all that.
Well said, sir. On all of that, I know the last part, maybe we'll talk about it. You might have given a little too much there, but hey, congratulations again. Thanks for the time. Good luck in the next round or more if it allows, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
All right. Thank you very much.
Kole Vivian joining us on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline. Great to chat with him, and the answer correct is, I believe, Megan Wilson. That is the correct answer to that question. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will continue our women's basketball conversation. Mary Washington, Deena Applebury will join us to talk about the Flying High Eagles and what they're doing in the NCAA tournament. They get a little undersung sometimes because of Christopher Newport, but they're certainly getting the spotlight on themselves for good reason. You're listening to Hoops Hope, presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studios.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
Welcome back to Hoopsville as we continue to go along. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. We're also live simulcasting on Facebook and YouTube. Blazer, Bobcat, and Kalen sitting there on our YouTube stream. Appreciate their joining us there. And certainly others can join us if you so choose. Still talking women's basketball. The old Capital Athletic Conference, now the C2C, which looks very different, especially with Finlandia now closing, as we talked about on the last show, has certainly had its attention stolen by Christopher Newport on the women's side. They've been kind of the head and shoulders of the conference. But one team that has been synonymous with the conference for a long time, playing really well, especially in women's basketball, has been Mary Washington. We just haven't had a chance to really talk about the Eagles over the last few years, but they're having a breakout season because we're still talking about them in mid-March because they're still playing in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, thanks to a pretty good first weekend to get them there. Deena Applebury, the longtime head coach of the Eagles, has her team, forgive the term, said it a few times, flying high. And joining us on the Blue Frame or Hudl Hoopsville Hotline is the aforementioned Deena Applebury. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us. Congratulations on getting here. I know it's been a bit of a battle for a program that's used to being in the NCAA tournament, but here you are and still dancing.
Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about just where the evolution has been, because again, this is a program I remember not so many years ago was a stalwart, and I know it probably to some point gets very comfortable. Like you just assume and expect that's the success you will have, and then you kind of hit a bump in the road and you got to rebuild and retool. What's that evolution been like?
Well, I mean, it's hard to sustain a program at a high level, and we did have a couple of years where we were down, but still we were always had a winning program, and I'm just super pleased and happy with the way our kids are playing this year, and to get back to this level is incredible, and the girls have been playing really hard, and they're super competitive, and we're just excited to be here.
24-6 on the season. Losses to Marymount, Johns Hopkins, Christopher Newport, UC Santa Cruz, Christopher Newport. Sorry, didn't mean to mention that 3 times. But my point being is all really good teams. Even Santa Cruz was a really good team this year. Johns Hopkins had a really good run this season. Marymount was a pretty tricky team as well. When you look at it on the whole, really solid season. What's been working so well this year?
Well, I think, we just have a really well-rounded group of athletes. We've got some guards that can really score from the perimeter. We have some that can really score off the bounce. And then we have some post players that can really get their job done in the paint. So that accompanied with solid team defense, I think has really kind of put us where we're at. And it's, and again, it's just been fun to watch these kids really kind of put it all together, kind of figure it all out. And the schedule that we had this year and even last year kind of, building up to this point, I think has really propelled us and pushed us to the point where, we know what it's like to compete at a high level and how to win in those type of games.
When you look at the difference in the team from the beginning of the year till now, what's been the biggest growth point? What's been the biggest evolution?
Well, I think just overall maturity and again, the kids just buying in completely. I think they were 90% there and needed to go the extra 10, and they did it. And I think just, again, a little bit of extra growth and experience, playing in big games, playing in big arenas, having to have, multiple kids step up on different nights and just, again, being able to consistently show them and talk to them about kind of where our success is coming from and have them understand it, see it, buy it, and continue to, want to work really hard on the defensive end to understand that is a big piece of why we are where we're at. But at the same time, we still need to make sure we're putting the ball in the basket, and we need to be assertive and aggressive on the offensive end as well. And I think, we've had a very good balance of both of those. I mean, we're in some top categories in both areas. And, it's just been, like I said, fun to kind of watch the maturity of our seniors and juniors kind of rise to the occasion this year.
And a lot of that maturity and such had to be in play this last two games, because you look at the Roger Williams game, and listen, I thought Roger Williams was a really good team no one was talking about this season. You beat them in the first quarter. They got you in the second, so be it. But then they get you third quarter, so they've got the lead going into that fourth, and you beat them 27-13. Most points scored in any of those quarters with that 27 to come from behind and win 69-60. There had to have been part of that senior leadership and that senior understanding of, listen, we don't go down. We don't go down without a fight at the very least, and we know we can come back.
Well, I mean, I just continue to tell the players, just to play our game and to relax and to kind of enjoy it and have fun with it. Earlier in my career, I definitely probably did not have that approach and was a little bit, probably maybe a little more maybe nervous and anxious myself. But at this point, they just have to enjoy it and relax and play their game and stay within themselves and not feel pressured to do too much or get outside of themselves, and just to stick with the game plan and let the chips fall where they may. And I think, again, the buy-in, I mean, they believe that. They felt it. I could sense it in them. I could tell they weren't worried. I could tell they weren't anxious or nervous. It was really nice to see, again, continue to see new kids and new players step up in new ways, and especially coming down the stretch in the fourth quarter in a game against Roger Williams, who, like you said, is a really good team.
Well, and then you took on DeSales, who were 27-1 entering that game. Really tough team to play at their place on a good day. On a tough day, it's going to be even worse. And you led, for the most part, for much of the game. What did you take advantage against the Bulldogs, which probably had one of their better teams they've had in a number of years? What did you take advantage of? What did you see as something you could execute to end up pulling off the victory there, winning 75-69?
Well, I think, again, I mean, our team defense is pretty incredible. And I mean, man, DeSales is very well coached, and they have some super talented athletes, and they were hard to guard and hard to handle. And the game did go back and forth several times. I mean, we might have had to lead a lot, but it went back and forth. And they challenged us every step of the way. There's no doubt about it. But I just think our kids, stuck with the game plan. I mean, we needed to get the ball into the paint a little bit. We still had to score from the perimeter. And we just had to play stingy defense. We had to make sure that, every shot that they took was contested, and that we made them earn it, and trying to limit them on the boards and make sure we're boxing them out and doing our job on getting after all the 50-50 balls and trying to just be assertive and match their intensity and match their aggressiveness. And again, I think coming down the stretch, I think we did that. And sometimes throughout, I think, the course of this year, we've struggled with getting those 50-50 balls and being the most aggressive team on the floor. And these last two games, I think, we held our own in that area.
Well, listen, you talk about the defense, 52 points a game, less than 52 points a game is saying something. You allow your opponents to shoot, I'm double checking, less than 34% and just barely 22% from beyond the arc. Certainly solid numbers. And when it comes to rebounding, you're out rebounding your opponents by 4.5, and you're causing them 23 turnovers per contest. That all speaks to kind of chaotic defense, to put a little bit of a spin on it. You face Christopher Newport in their chaotic defense. Is this kind of been something that's been built in because you take on a CNU type squad, or from my history, I kind of always known you've had good defenses, but the offenses usually stole the show. So has this been just kind of evolving with time?
Well, I just think, it's the kind of makeup of the team that we have right now. I mean, we have some kids that are just very scrappy, very athletic, very aggressive and assertive on the defensive end. And so that certainly lends itself well for, I think, more assertive defensive efforts, full court, half court, the whole bit. But I think ultimately, all the teams we played this year and probably, yes, Christopher Newport at the top of that. I mean, obviously they're incredibly good, has prepared us, I think, to be able to not only pick up our defense when we need to, but hopefully score when we are, struggling or against good top defensive pressures. And, it's been really nice just watching this group continue to develop.
There's got to be something said about seeing, unfortunately, Christopher Newport 3 times in a season, but more importantly, seeing that defense and the chaos it can create 3 times in a year in how to build confidence, right? Like, you're not going to see that basically from any other opponent. So if you can handle what they throw at you, you can probably handle what anybody else throws at you.
So far, that's true. We might see somebody that does something more than they do, but so far I haven't. So again, my hat's off to them. We did play them 3 times. We got better we got a little bit better each time we played them, but they're a tough team. So and that's why they're in the Sweet 16 as well.
Tell me about the individuals. We talked about the team as a group, but Jordan Carpenter, a junior, leads the way at 15 points a game. You got Keegan Schwab, a junior, at 10.5 points. Sophomore, and Elizabeth Dufresne at 8.5, 7.5 from Ashley Martin, who's a senior, and Sydney Sherman at 7 points. Those 5 certainly are the ones that are at the top of the list. I know it's not the only 5, but tell me a little bit about Carpenter, Schwab, and the rest of them.
Well, Jordan is she's just an incredible athlete. She's very coachable. She loves the game, works hard, really just gets in the gym and during practice is one of the hardest workers. And it's just a pleasure to work with her and coach her. I mean, she is just undeniable on the boards. She's relentless on offense, shooting a very, very high percentage. She's one of the top, field goal percentage, players in the league or in the country right now. And, again, she's also coming down the stretch here in these last 6 games. I think 5 out of the last 6 games she's had that double-double, and she's just playing incredibly well right now. Keegan coming in, she has the ability to light it up, and she can take the ball to the basket. She can post up. She's an incredible free throw shooter. She's got depth on her shot. Again, just, it's nice to see her, come out against DeSales and knock down some threes for us. And we have so many players that are so good. I mean, Ashley Martin, she just does the things that nobody else wants to do. She just does the hard stuff. We need grind out points, shot clock's running down, or, we haven't scored in, a couple minutes, 3 minutes. She's just the type of player that's like, give me the ball and get out of my way. I'm going to make something happen. And she does. And defense kind of the same way. She's always tasked with guarding the best guard on the other team. And usually she comes out on the right end of that too. She's just a tenacious player and a tough kid.
It's fun to hear that. What I think won't be fun to anybody to hear was, I mentioned only one senior, Ashley Martin. She's not the only one. There's Molly Sharman as well. But this rest of this group's got a lot of experience who are going to be coming back, and not that we're looking ahead, but all this what you're going through now in the season, the NCAA tournament, et cetera, that's all going in the memory banks for next year too.
Oh, yes. No, it definitely is. Don't get me wrong. Our seniors are incredible. The 3 seniors that we have, and even our 4th senior, Bree Harper, who's injured this year, they've been incredible in terms of just, I think, kind of showing the young kids, kind of all the ins and outs of what we do offensively and what we do defensively. And they've just been incredible in terms of people and leaders and again, on the court, advice and suggestions and just their performance. Carissa, although, she may not get a lot of stats, she really does a great job on defense, and she holds down the fort and the paint for us in that category. And Molly's had some really big games for us this year too. And so those 3 are they're going to be missed, but at the same time, you're right. We do have a good group that's going to be returning, and hopefully this stuff does stick with them, and they want more. But right now, we're just enjoying where we're at and trying to make the most of it and get as far as we can.
Where you're at is a date with Smith at Smith up in Central. I call it Central Mass, like many people call it Western Mass. They are 28-1 this season, considered the top team in the tournament, number 4 in the top 25 in the pre-tournament D3 Hoops poll. Lynn Hersey's squad has proven game in and game out to be a very difficult team. What have you seen so far, and how do you think you can match up with them?
Well, I mean, they're going to be incredibly tough. Again, another very well-coached team, another very strong team. I mean, those girls are physical. They know how to play. They play together well, strong offense, strong defense. It is going to be a tough matchup, and especially playing them on their home court. That's never going to be easy, but at the same time, again, we're just happy to be here, and we're going to give it our best, and hopefully we can make it a good ball game, and I think we will, and should be fun.
I should have asked this to the other guests. I'll ask you, what's the travel plans? What's the hope when you get up to that part of the Massachusetts?
Well, I mean, plan on leaving Wednesday. I don't have all the details yet because we don't have the call until tomorrow, but we're planning on leaving Wednesday morning at some point to get up there. And definitely we're going to be close enough to the Naismith Hall of Fame that we're definitely going to try to make a run by there and check that out and give the girls, an even better experience while we're there.
It's all about the experience, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that'll be fun. Well, congratulations again. Enjoy the trip. Good luck in the game. We'll see. I'll look forward to watching it for sure. Love to see how this all plays out. But more importantly, congratulations on being to this point in the NCAA tournament. Once again, big accomplishment for the program, I know. We have a tradition on the show. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who might be tuned in?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say, thanks to, all of our friends and families and all the fans that were able to, attend last weekend and support us. And hopefully we'll see, those same people and a few more this next weekend. I know it's a further trip, so hopefully we'll have a lot of supporters. And just want to thank all of them and all of the staff back at Mary Washington and my assistant coaches and everybody for, all the support and helping us out to be able to get to this point. And obviously, thank you, for everything that you do for women's basketball and, of course, Division III basketball.
Well, thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Yeah, the distance is what, maybe probably 2/3 more than you just went. That's okay. They can do it. It's a nice trip. Just avoid New York City, especially if you talk to Gettysburg, they'll tell you to avoid the city altogether. Hey, Coach, good luck. Take care. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Deena Applebury joining us on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline. Again, they'll take on Smith. That's an 8:30 game. We should point out both men and women staggered times, which has been really fun getting to see these games played out at different times. They'll take on Smith, as we mentioned, at 8:30 at Smith. That should be a really good game. You should tune into all of them, in my opinion. That one's going to be on my list to tune into as well. Hey, quick note. I know I got some text, and I know I got an email regarding the women's committee decision on Trinity and Tufts. I've not had a chance to read through it, but I will at some point before we get to the end of the show. We'll have an update on that. I just wanted everybody to understand. I got a little distracted. You may have seen me a little distracted. I know I've gotten some information. I have not been able to dive into it, but we will get an update on that. Speaking of the updates, you might notice the tote board's been updated. Thank you to another donation. We'll double check to make sure we haven't missed some others, but we are over that 80% mark and marching our way towards full goal, and we appreciate all of those who have donated to the cause. When we come back, we'll pivot back to men's basketball. Mary Hardin-Baylor's Clif Carroll joins us. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studios. Much more ahead. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
These are your teams, your players, your community of fans. This is where they play, where they practice, where you cheer. At every meet, every event, every game. Your community is passionate, dedicated, supportive. You know the tension of a close game and the thrill of the win. So while you're cheering, keep an eye out for anything out of the ordinary. If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. You might have heard me grumbling in the background because I was trying to set up something, because I told you I wanted to show the highlight of Mary Hardin-Baylor moving on to the NCAA tournament thanks to an absolutely tremendous win over ETBU, to say the least. I'm going to try and add this, doing it on the fly. I apologize, because this was not how I wanted to. I should have done this when I had some time earlier today, and of course I didn't, because, why would I make it easy on myself? But just an absolutely bonkers finish. Actually, great games across the board. They just played extremely well the whole weekend, but they also had some really tough competition the entire weekend as well. So let's take a look at how this one played out in Belton with these two teams between ETBU. It came down to the end, Mary Hardin-Baylor down, and this is how it played out. Oh, got to hit play, don't I? It's a minor detail. There we go. Pretty amazing, to say the least. Pretty impressive victory, to say the least. And an impressive... listen, I don't know if they like to be the heart attack kids or not, but it seems like it fits their bill to some degree to talk about it and discuss it and maybe prove me wrong. Joining us on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline, it's Clif Carroll, who's probably peeking up at the big screen at what I just showed, one of the angles of that. Coach, you got to be pretty darn pleased that your guys are able to do what they were able to do, but more importantly, you got to be a little bit frustrated that they keep doing this to you.
We're trying to get our attendance numbers up out here in the Mayborn Center, and if you just you got to give them something to cheer for, so make it a little exciting. I guess, I don't know. I mean, we've done that to ourselves all year long. We've had some amazing comebacks, we've had some amazing end finishes of games. And I tell them all the time, I said, fellas, if y'all want a new coach, man, I'll just quit, right? You don't have to kill me. You don't have to give me the heart attack. Just tell me I'll move on. So, but no, these kids, they hang in, they believe, and they've won more games than they've lost doing that.
Yeah, that's saying it lightly. Though, if memory serves, and I'm shooting a little off the hip here, I apologize. But memory serves, this is how it didn't work out last season. Like, you needed that shot to fall, and it didn't fall, right?
I mean, you talk about it in the Elite Eight there?
Yeah, in the Elite Eight.
Got whipped. I mean, we were up by 15 in the first half to Elmhurst, and came down and just, Elmhurst was a better team in the second half.
No, it's true.
We had a 3-point lead with 30 seconds left, and fouled a shooter, and they got the bucket in the free throw. We had to go to overtime, and they were good in overtime. So, but we were. In the first round versus Chapman, we had to come from 11 down with like 2 minutes to go, so we had a lot of these games last year also. Josiah Johnson's hit, I think, 3 or 4 game winners in his career. So here at UMHB, so we practice in the game all the time. We practice it weekly, and we feel like we're pretty good when it comes down to those situations that we can execute.
No, you've got to be that good to execute, to say the least. It can't be a second thought. They've got to be able to just kind of go on instinct. And to some degree, it seemed like in that moment, that's what happened because he bobbles the ball. He has to get that back. He's got to kind of re-trigger, rethink, reshoot, re-go everything. And look at that. It worked out.
Yeah, this is all happening right in front of me. So we had a timeout. And I tell you, Dave, the most important thing about what happened with the end of this game was during that timeout, Josh Bruton, who runs our music, hits my theme music, right? So I got a theme song, right? I'm a big believer in theme music, right? So it's Queso
You watch
Blanco.
a little too much wrestling, Cliff.
No, man, no, Queso Blanco by the Quaker City Nighthawks, right? And so
all right.
We're drawing up the play, and I don't use my board, so I really don't draw, right? I hadn't used my board all year, hadn't touched it. But, like, we're talking about what we want to run. And actually I'm asking Joe, hey, Joe, what do you want to run, right? So we know we're trying to get the ball to him, and then all of a sudden Queso Blanco hits, so I just look at him, boys, we can't lose now. It hit my theme music, man, like this is it. So, but all this is happening right in front of me, and Joe bobbles the ball, the kid hits it out of his hands. It goes to Luke Feely in the corner. I almost hit a timeout, but Luke immediately gives it back to Josiah. Okay, timeout's off, so, and I'll tell you what, as soon as he went into his gather, I audibly said, oh, this is good, and the bench stood up and the ball hit the net and pandemonium ensued. And so, yeah, that's a moment that I'll never forget. I hope that moment doesn't define our season. I hope we have more moments like that. We have 2 more weekends to make moments, I hope. But man, what a night, what a shot.
The fact you knew when he had just gathering it, hadn't even fired yet, is pretty impressive. I know this was the game I mentioned earlier in the show where I saw that it was in a timeout, so I quickly went over to do a couple of other things behind the scenes. I was updating some scores and stuff. I had come back from my game. I went, all right, I'll go back. And by the time I got back, it was over. And I'm like, gosh darn it. And I went, all right, let me rewind. And I couldn't rewind. And now I'm even more frustrated. And Pat's and other guys around the Slack going, oh, my gosh, you should have seen it. I'm like, no, this can't be. And thank God for people who can do instant replay very quickly. Got it up, and I got to watch it. And I got to watch it from multiple angles. Listen, this is a team that you guys have had an interesting season. It started at the beginning where you went out to Cali and you played 3 tough teams out in the SCIAC. You went 2-1. I think it raised some eyebrows in a couple of ways. Raised some eyebrows about the SCIAC early in the season. It raised some eyebrows. Is Mary Hardin-Baylor going to do what they did to us last year of stumble around and kind of not give us the team we want and then finally show up at the end and, oh, my gosh, and we were all talking about it. And then you took a month off. And you had Thanksgiving. And you relaxed, and you had a nice break, and then you restarted your season. What was that beginning like? Because let's be honest, that is not prototypical.
No, and that was terrible scheduling, but it was just kind of what we could get, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about, whatever and scheduling and everybody, but I'm just telling you, it's out here in Region 10, it's really hard, right?
Yes.
So out here, it's really hard. So, we came down and we're looking for, we're looking for games, and I'm talking to these guys in California. Of course, last year, had we not won our tournament, I'm not sure, we could have been the Barry of last year, like where we had the 23-2 record, and we had our SOS was okay. It was like in the 520s. It wasn't good, but it wasn't terrible. But we were 0-0 versus ranked opponents, and so we knew that we had to go find ranked opponents, and it's really hard. You start looking at this, Dave, and as a coach, it's really hard to kind of predict, so like, all right, so what can we do? Can we go get, somebody out of Region 3 or Region 10 or whatever, Region 5, whatever? Well, I just decided we're going to go play 5 of the best teams in our region that we could, and that kind of ensured that we'd at least get a couple, like we ended up with 7. So it kind of worked out for us, but, we went and got, what ended up being the 3 best teams in California. And we went out and we got Whitworth, and Linfield, who, Whitworth won their league. So, and then we were lucky to have some teams in the ASC become ranked. So that helped us. We ended up, I think, 5-2 with RROs. But the timing of it all was bad. Like we don't do well with breaks, right? So we start the season, with a 8-month break or whatever it is. Start the season, we lose at Claremont Mudscripts. Very, very good team. Coach had them just ready to roll, and they just pounced on us, right? So then we turn around and won 2 games. Then we take that month off, like you talked about. We come back, we play at Concordia, we lose, So, like, we take Christmas break, we come back, we play Sul Ross at home, we lose. So, I knew better than that. I know that we lose our focus a little bit, breaks hurt us, so wasn't very smart. Wasn't very smart scheduling, but it kind of we got on that roll late in the season. We won 14 in a row, and here we are. So we were able to get the at-large bid, and we're very thankful for it.
Yeah, 14 in a row, only upended by Hardin-Simmons in what was basically the second game of a doubled hit in 8 days. You played them in the first round of the ASC tournament, which essentially started the bubble popping. It wasn't an actual bubble pop at that moment, but it started the popping, or at least started putting bubbles on tenuous moments. Were you nervous? Were you nervous that you guys had just lost the NCAA tournament right then and there? That extra loss put the ASC right squarely, that tournament that you needed to win now?
Yeah, so I really appreciate all the work that all the guys do, the Drew Pastors and the Snyder brothers, and like that information really is helpful, because it kind of gives us an idea where we are. It's not perfect and it's not exact, but it's pretty good. Those guys are pretty good at it, so we're sitting there and after we lose, of course you go in there and you look at Drew Pastor stuff. Okay, we're good. We're like C, 7, 6, we're good, right? So we're fine. Then that night, just a couple, okay, we're fine. The next morning, get up, you go to church, come home from church, like, goodness, what's going on here? And then I just couldn't handle it anymore. So I went in the backyard and started pulling weeds, out of the backyard, and I just remember coming in and Quillman had kind of put out a tweet, this is carnage, and I just said, I'm going back out and pulling weeds, man. So if it happens, it happens. If not, there's nothing we can do. Like, we ended up being okay, but I'm telling you, there were some really, really good teams that were left out, like I feel like CMS is, you can go on, I guess you guys have really debated all that, but CMS was close to us because we played them and they're in our region, our friends of those guys, and so that was a tough one to see being left out, and pretty in normal years, last year they're probably in. So that got a little hairy there, that bloody Sunday,
That's a good way of putting it. Yes. Carnage is the least of the words we could use without making people really angry. It was absolutely crazy. But you did bolster this resume. You did get into the NCAA tournament. You guys earned an at home, thanks in part to your facilities. You got a chance to take that, but then you had two huge battles in Schreiner and ETBU, proving what we all knew. There's good basketball in Texas. No one doubts that. But actually, some of the carnage forced you guys to get a home game, essentially, and not have a different matchup. Tell me about the weekend.
Man, it was a great weekend of basketball. It was a great showcase of Division III basketball for the state of Texas. We're relatively newcomers, even though our league's been around for 25 years. We're relatively newcomers when you look at the national scheme, and even in our own state, sometimes we fight the stigma of D3 Texas D3 basketball. And so anybody that looked at either one of those games saw high level basketball, a lot of great players, great plays being made, game winners. And it was just really a great showcase for basketball. And I thought it was really cool that us and ETBU was the last game of the night, on Saturday night. And so we got a lot of eyeballs there on our second half, and except for yours, apparently you had something else to do. But that last game, that last play there. But, I feel like it was, I think maybe we could have opened some eyes. You look at ETBU and you look at the type of athletes and players that they have, my goodness gracious, we hadn't seen those guys yet. You hadn't seen a Derry Moore play yet, so, Aaron Gregg, those are big time basketball players. Of course, Josiah's kind of got a name. He's been on some All-American. Most people kind of know about him, but you make that kind of shot in that kind of a moment, you're going to elevate your standing a little bit. People will think a little differently of you. So definitely was a great weekend of basketball. The atmosphere was awesome. We had great crowds, from all fans. It wasn't just UMHB fans. We had, Schreiner their crowd was amazing that first night. They traveled really well. So, Sarah Kotraki kind of said, on your podcast, hey, Region 10, it was what it was. We're going to try to put this tournament in a spot. It's going to give these kids a showcase, an experience. And I think Mary Hardin-Baylor was able to do that by the way that we hosted, and also by the basketball played and the crowd that we had. It was an incredible weekend of basketball.
No, I think that, there was a purpose to it, and it looked like it worked out well. We'll talk about the weekend coming up in a bit, but talk about the team. We've talked about Josiah Johnson. We've talked about him for years. He's still the straw that stirs the drink. 21.6 points per game, 4.5, actually 5 rebounds per contest. He's second on the team in assists. He's first on the team in steals. He's second on the team in blocks. There's a lot that he does. But how's his game evolved? Because last year we were talking about the fact he was playing on a wounded leg. This year, what's it been like?
When we first got him, when I recruited Josiah, he came here on his recruiting trip, and it was kind of cut short. We had some storms. We had hail. His mom was trying to beat the hell out of town. And so, I didn't get a chance to really sell him, right? And so basically, on the way out, he looked me in the eye and said, "Coach, if I come here, what do you want me to do for you?" I said, "Joe, you just come in here and get buckets, buddy." And so that's what he's done. He's the all-time leading scorer in the history of UMHB. He's got a good chance to break that record for the conference next year. He's an all-time steals leader here at UMHB. Like he's going to own a lot of records. He's going to win a lot of games. He's going to have a lot of big moments. But I'm really proud of the kid. He's really matured from 2 years ago to now. He's really expanded his game. His first year here, I'm not sure he could guard a chair if it had wheels on it. He just wanted to get buckets. That's where his focus was. And so I have really been on his tail end about being on the defensive end of the ball, being better that way on that side of the ball. And he's really evolved. I hope he's not listening. I don't want him getting a big head, but he's really become a good defender, and so he's just been more mature. He's a better leader. He's being vocal. It's really been fun to watch him grow over the last couple of years.
I think you're being strategic there, just to say the least. He's not the only one, obviously. Ty Prince, 17 points a game. Luke Feely, 11 points a game. They both bring in their rebounds. Prince leads the team in assists, leads the team in blocks as well. Kyle Wright certainly contributing. I know there's a lot of other guys. You play a good deep bench. Give me a little bit about the rest of the guys not named Josiah.
Yeah, so Ty Prince is kind of a unicorn. He's about 6'6", 6'7". He's kind of got the poofy hair. So it's kind of hard to tell how tall he really is. But he if you just looked at us warming up, you would think, okay, that's the center. And effectively, he performs as our point guard, he's leads us in assists and moves the ball and initiates some offense. And so he gives us a lot of versatility offensively and defensively. He can guard a lot of different people, and he's just uniquely talented for his size. You don't have a whole lot of guys, at this level that can match his physicality. So when you put him and his skill set next to Josiah, those two guys, when they're both locked in, it's really tough. And then, kind of the heart and soul of our team is the Kyle Wright, Luke Feely combo. Those two guys just play super hard. They play great defense. Kyle Wright has made some of the most unbelievable defensive plays that I have ever seen when it comes down to crunch time. Like we're down, when we're playing the University UT Dallas at home and we're down by 9 with 2:14 left. Kyle Wright just comes up with some steals that I still, you go back and watch film, you're saying, I can't believe this. So that kid's kind of, him along with Luke are kind of the heartbeat of our team, the toughness and the grit and the, just the play hard. And, and we just have, a guy like Gibson Hearn who just does so much for us. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet, he's the ultimate competitor. He's the ultimate team guy. He's a guy that's going to graduate early and, kind of treat him as a senior, even though he has some time left. But, these guys are really engaged and they're really committed to each other and playing hard. It's been real special.
Christopher Newport ahead. Tough team. We all know that. You're going to be at their place, which means cross-country trip. Wait, you've done that before. You just go in the other direction instead. How do you prepare for the captains? What are you expecting? What do you see?
And it's tough, at big boy inside Barber, we try to take, two of our little freshman guards and sit them on top of each other, and try to figure out how big he is, So, it's kind of like the old DuckTales cartoons, So, they're just really good. I mean, they're really athletic. They run good stuff. They're kind of they kind of offensively kind of have the same concepts as us. It's not real complicated. and it's getting your best players in spots where they can be effective, and they're really good defensively. They're a very good team. Like, I would say that they're a good offensive team, but a great defensive team. I would say that we're a good defensive team, but a great offensive team. So it's going to be a great kind of match of strengths there, and there's going to be some incredible matchups that I'm really looking forward to out there, and see how we can guard them and how they can guard us, and the individual things, and he's one of the, no offense, Coach, but like, you're one of the few guys that have less hair than I do now, so I'm looking forward to that, so, but I got to know Corey a little bit last year. We try to figure out how to play a game, and I love his energy, man, and I've just had some great some people tell me some great things about him. I really look forward to meeting him in person and developing that relationship further. I think he's one of the unique guys in Division III, and hopefully this won't be the last time that Christopher Newport and Mary Hardin-Baylor play each other.
Oh, that's a nice hint of what we might see in the future. By the way, you could always take that trip out to Vegas. I'm just saying, you two could come together and play it for us. I'm just saying, I'm selfish.
Dave, I'm telling you, we're looking for. We're going to hire a new women's coach. We haven't really gotten that process yet, but that's going to be my first duty is to talk our new women's coach into coming to Vegas. We're going to do it all together. Mary Hardin-Baylor's coming strong. And
brilliant.
And
how it works.
Hey, we're going to get out there, man. We loved it last time we went out there.
No, and it worked out for you guys, and I think it would. Hey, when they both come out, I've seen great things happen, not only there but for both programs. So I agree with you there. Hey, listen, real quick business. Your former school, Sul Ross, has finally announced that they're heading off to Division II, and depending on who you talk to, that's an interesting decision and a bad one, depending on their perspectives. But it's another hit to the ASC, and while it's mainly a hit to football, let's be honest, basketball shrinking is not the end of the world. It would help your schedules a little bit, even though it is tough to schedule. I get it. You get non-conference games is my point. I know it's made everybody sweat because at this point, everybody could scramble trying to solve their football problem, and that creates everybody else's problem. How unsettling is it right now in terms of the ASC, which, if people are looking on paper, seems okay from the basketball perspective, but we know there's a lot going on.
Dave, I mean, you know me a little bit, man. I'm not smart enough to be able to worry about all these different things, man. Like, I coach basketball, if I start worrying about other things, then I'm not good enough of a basketball coach to get my team ready. So, here, hopefully in about 2 weeks, I'll start worrying about it, I know that we got great presidents in this league. I know that we're very proactive. Our presidents are very proactive. I know that they have a plan, I trust them that they have a plan. I hope that the commitments that they've made to each other are good and solid. I hope that there's not a commitment being made and then, all right, we're working some side deals just in case, I hope that these schools that are saying they're committed to each other follow through with that. I think they will, it's a group of good men, but, I see your face there, you're a little bit skeptical. It's outside of a coach's control, even though, we do have to worry about that a little bit. So, it's still to be seen if Sul Ross will make it to D2. They're going to go through the process, but we'll see. If
That's
they make it all the way through. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, best of luck to them. I still love that place. I spent 5 great years out there. It was a great adventure and a great time of my life. And one of my sons was born out there in the hospital of Alpine, and it's not a barn, actually, Dave. It's an actual hospital. I did have that question before.
I wasn't going there. That's brilliant, though.
But Willie was born out there. I saw it happen. So, but no, I have a great time there, man. I love that place. I love the people there. I wish them all the best. And if it's God's plan to have them be a Division II school, I hope that they go out and conquer the world. So, but they have a long ways to go. There's a lot of hurdles that they still have to jump. So, I don't know if it's going to be there yet. I hope, like I said, if that's what they want, God bless them. I hope them. But I'm not going to panic about our league right now. I know we got great leadership, and we'll be able to figure this thing out.
Well, I appreciate the time. Yeah, I certainly wasn't expecting. By the way, my skepticism is more along the lines of I've heard many times where X is agreed to and Y ends up being the reality. So that's all.
Yeah.
Well, who knows?
Yeah, some of the presidents, the politician side come out of them. Can't trust them politicians.
I don't, sir. Yes, agreed. Absolutely. I was going to come up with some witty saying, but I'm fresh out of witty sayings. Hey, congratulations. Good luck. And we can reveal a little bit of a tip for everybody on where I may be this weekend. I'll see you Friday.
Yes, sir. Hey, Dave, listen, I heard, maybe you know this, but is it crab cakes, right? Is that what's supposed to be eaten out there in that part of Virginia?
That's more, Maryland tries to make that their thing, but listen, you're around the Chesapeake Bay. Absolutely. Crab cakes are a must, and make sure you don't get too much filler with them.
Now, Krikori's trying to sell me on some barbecue, man. Like, dude,
barbecue's good too. I know. I think
I got my brand new Miller's barbecue T-shirt on. Like,
no, I think I don't think. Listen, you got your standards on barbecue, and I don't know what they're going to have down there. But you're setting yourself up for disappointment based on your own standards. I say you do a little bit different. Yeah, I think crabs are definitely where you go. If you really can find a place that's going to have a crab feast, and you sit them and pick them and sit there for a few hours having a good old chat with everybody, sure. But I don't know if you got that kind of time. Crab cakes are a pretty solid choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of your realm out there, man. I'm gonna listen to you. We're gonna find us some. Maybe not crab cakes, maybe just some crab, right? Like,
you're right there at the mouth of the Chesapeake. You can't go wrong.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe a buffet. Is there a buffet out there, Dave? You know?
Good question. I don't know that answer. Believe it or not, because the Chesapeake is so big, that is, and I know this is going to pale in comparison to your mind, but that is close to a 5-hour drive for me.
Okay. Well, that's nothing in Texas, man.
No, I know. I've driven across Texas. Took me 13 hours point to point. I'm fully aware. I realize. I'm just saying, I'm just not down there as often as you think I would be.
Man, we got Bob Quillman last weekend. We got Dave McHugh this weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, you
make it to next weekend, you get Pat Coleman.
Yeah, I don't know about Pat. We'll see. Pat, I'm kidding, buddy. I'm joking. I'm kidding. Pat, I promise you, I love you, buddy.
That was brilliant,
You know you're from Minnesota, but we'll be good, man.
That was brilliant. You get Ryan Scott, too. Hey, sir, great to chat with you. As always, we give the guests the final word. After that, I don't know if you got anything better, but any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Hey, listen, man. I love life, man, and can't be any better. We're in the Sweet 16. We're going to go play a great team on the road. I got a great team myself, you know, and we're just loving life, man. I'm bringing my 9-month-old baby, my kids. Waterboy Whalen's going to be there. You know, he's got great records. So, man, I'm fired up, man. This is a great time of year. It's a great time of year for D3 hoops, you know, and I just hope that we can, go out there to Christopher Newport and make Texas proud.
Yeah, well, I'll be dragging the son along if he behaves himself. So look forward to meeting you and seeing some good games, sir.
Hey, we need another water boy, man. Throw him on the bench.
I'm already trying to do some other work around here. Hey, we'll talk to you soon. You take care of yourself, all right?
All right, brother. We'll see you.
Clif Carroll joining us on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline. Great to chat with him. Now I'm way off and way behind schedule, so we're going to get quickly pivoted here. Just a quick reminder, there is an update for the Women's Committee. I have not had a chance to read it. I'm being honest with you. I know there's one in my email. We're working on that to get that information updated for the end of the show. So we'll stick around for that. We will get some information to you from them. In the meantime, speaking of women, we're going to pivot and go out to Christopher Newport. Sondra Fan will join us to talk about her team as a senior on a squad that is trying to win its national title. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. Back with more after this. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us. It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us. All of us.
To stop sexual assault. Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, as we continue on this Monday evening. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville, email us, hoopsville at D3sports.com. It's all on the bottom of your screen, where we're live simulcasting the show on Facebook and YouTube as well, and got it all out in one breath. Pat Miller coming up later in the program from Whitewater. We're so far behind, I got to text him to tell him that we're basically a segment behind, but he will be on. And again, we've gotten an update from the women's committee. I have not read it, so I can't even tell you what it might say and what we can read from it. But we will get you that information, whatever they sent, basically on, I'm pretty sure it's revolving around the decision of Tufts and Trinity, but we'll get to that in a bit. Women's basketball, one of the best teams in the country, has been the captains of Christopher Newport, of course, in that chaotic defense. Once again, undefeated. They've had one loss since December of 2019, which is just bonkers when you start to really wrap your mind around that. Senior, who's won, I think, 110 games, or at least in her career, as I double check my notes, because I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. 104. I gave her a few extra. 104 wins in her career, is the kind of the leader of that squad and helps them tick. And I would say she's probably the heartbeat of the team in more ways than one. It is Sondra Fan, and she will be joining us now on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline as she joins us from Christopher Newport. Hey, first and foremost, I did screw it up there on the graphic. I'll fix that. How are you? Welcome to the show, and congratulations on everything you've been doing so far. But is this the best time of year? The second best time? How does this rank with the general sense of everything?
I would say this is the best time of year. It's March. March Madness for us, heading to the Sweet 16. Couldn't be more proud of my team, and just excited.
Yes, it's obviously the best time of year. It's kind of just testing you there to just see. You decided to come back for this. You decided that you wanted the job wasn't done, for lack of a better way of saying it. I know the pandemic had an influence on that. I'm curious, was the decision made because of the pandemic, or was the decision made on how last season ended?
I want to more say the pandemic. This is an amazing program, this university, how supportive everyone is here. And I just couldn't leave last year and had to come back.
Makes total sense to me. If I could, I would do the same. Again, one loss since December of 2019, which of course incorporates the shutdown of the pandemic season. And so you were still in the NCAA tournament at that point. It incorporates anybody who was able to play some games in that shutdown of 20 and 21. And then into last year, where your one loss was this round of the NCAA tournament against Trinity. Otherwise, you've been rolling. This is going to sound a little strange, but at some level, do you get used to the fact that when you take the floor, it's going to be a victory?
It's just one game at a time. I mean, just so focused on the next opponent that I couldn't even tell you my last loss was in 2019. Just so focused on the next opponent, the next game, and any opportunity and challenges that come our way.
What attracted you to Christopher Newport?
So I actually only live 15 minutes away from here, so family, and then just coming here and meeting everyone, the team, just such a family-like feel, and this was just the place for me after visiting.
What about the program? Because I'm willing to bet, considering where you were and probably what you were like as a player in high school, CNU wasn't the only one who came calling.
And a few other schools called. I went and visited, but it just wasn't the same as CNU. Obviously, we have a winning program here. The girls are great. The coaches are amazing. And just the administrative staff, we're just all one here.
You get, again, a heck of a team to join, but it's a team that is known as for their chaotic defense that goes 94 feet. I've gotten a chance to see you on that team playing it. Do you have to have a different mentality coming in on what you're going to do in terms of whether you liked playing offense and now it's going to be defense, or you loved defense, but we're still taking this to a whole nother level? Like, how's that mental change as you kind of start into that chaos?
Definitely a faster pace here at CNU. Captain's Chaos is another monster. I mean, you have to be in shape when you're in season. Throughout, you got to keep up. Just different. Never ran a full court press in high school until I got here, so definitely a challenge, but fun to play. And
did you know that coming in? Do you knew when you were making that decision you were going to have to kind of learn that ideal?
I actually did not. First day of practice, man. First day here at CNU was different. Quick, fast,
yeah, I can
aggressive.
imagine. Did you instantly have regrets?
I could say freshman year was kind of hard, but picked it up at the end.
Yeah, well, you picked it up pretty well. That defense is crazy. I'm curious, what's the mentality like as a player? What do you have to be thinking about when playing that defense? Is it about your teammates? Is it about the opponent? What's going on in your head as you're trying to execute?
Just got to be aggressive. And I'm usually playing in the front, so you got to be aggressive, hands up. Not being scared of being beat, trusting the backcourt to be there when there's those long passes to get those steals, to just going out there and just being aggressive, being smart, and not getting beat middle, force them sideline.
You have been pretty synonymous with success at Christopher Newport. First player to win 4 conference championships. You've reached the sectionals all 4 years, so basically you've always had plans for the second weekend of March. You're 8th all-time in scoring, 7th among active players in career field goals, 13th in career steals. Again, 71-1 record since December 19. All-American, preseason All-American. You've got a lot of accomplishments. I'm curious, if you don't win the championship, will it still feel like a successful athletic life at Christopher Newport?
It's a really good question. Obviously, that's the end goal of this. I don't even think about any of the stats. Just like, I love being part of this program. The girls here are absolutely amazing. They're going to be my friends for life, and that's all I'm really going to take out of this, is just being able to be a part of their life, having them in my life, and just supporting them the rest of the way.
What's the vibe like on campus? I got a chance to call the soccer team's championship, and I knew that was a huge moment for Christopher Newport. And you've had so many programs so close, lacrosse programs, basketball programs, soccer programs, across the board. Winning is something that's not demanded. It's part of the culture. That's a good thing. I mean, you all have that expectation, but what's it like when another team wins a championship? I'm sure you're happy for them, but does that drive you further?
Oh, absolutely. Just a great campus. Me and a few of my teammates went out to Salem last year to watch softball take home the trophy. Came back, the women's soccer team had their little celebration when the Christmas tree was lit. We were all out there. So just a great atmosphere when someone takes home a big trophy like that.
What's it like on campus in general? Are the student body invested? Is everybody, is the campus buzz with the success of the programs?
Definitely. I walk into class and everyone says, "Hey, congrats on player of the week," or "Hey, congrats on a conference championship." Walk into the library, see students and just congratulating. Super positive atmosphere here with athletics.
By the way, we should point out you're obviously a student first. That's kind of important. And you stuck around to do your master's to be able to continue playing. Tell us a little bit. You told me before you're a finance major, but tell us a little bit about what drew you to finance and what you're doing with your master's.
So came back as a fifth year. I graduated undergrad last year in finance. So my next goal was to get my master's. It was just perfect. It's a quick 1-year program. 30 credits. So I took 15 last semester. I'm taking 15 now. I'm also a graduate assistant. So I'm working during the day up to practice. And then I go to class at night till about 8:45. So full schedule every day. A little slower on Fridays. I don't have class on Fridays. It's just Monday to Thursday, but till 8:45. So pretty late.
Hashtag YD3 to say the least. Tell me about your team. You lead the way at 14 points a game, but you got Anaya Simmons at 13.7, 8 points from Hannah Kole. I know there's others. Tell me about your teammates. Give us a sense of who they are and what makes you guys so good.
Absolutely amazing. Loved playing with enjoyed playing with Anaya Simmons. Just she knows when I'm passing to her. Sometimes I throw her some crazy passes and she's still able to catch it. Kole, young, very driven, works hard. And of course, our floor general, Gabby San Diego, just been a blast playing with her. She brings great energy to the floor. And then another leader, Katie Rader, just always bring that positive energy for us, always uplifting all of us throughout the day, in practice, even in academics. She's always there for us. She's like the mom of the team.
What's it like with Coach? Because I've seen Bill in action on the sideline. He is an intense individual, but then we'll get him on the show, and he's almost like a teddy bear. He's kind of quiet, not very, sometimes not very emotional. That's a heck of a dynamic between one and the other. What's it like to be coached by Coach?
Exactly like you said, on the court, he brings that intensity, that competitiveness in practice and in games, and then off the courts, he's always there for us, just like you said, a teddy bear. Just love the energy that he brings to the floor. Sometimes in practice, if he's not there yelling at us, it's just can get messy sometimes.
It feels a little weird, feels a little quiet.
Yeah.
You got a really good game against Wartburg coming up, a team that has certainly earned their way through the tournament. You guys got through a Brooklyn team and then a pretty tough Elizabethtown team to get to this point. First off, the games that were, and then we'll pivot, and the game that is coming up. But what was it like the first weekend?
First weekend, we know it's going to be tough. Brooklyn, really scrappy team, very aggressive, very good shooters. We're able to just run out on their shooters, contain their best player. Just overall a good game for us Friday night. And then into Saturday, Elizabethtown, very great team. Lost 4 games, 3 to Scranton, which is another great team. Just had to bring that aggressiveness to the floor, getting rebounds. They're a very good rebounding team, so we needed to box out, just keep up with the intensity of the game.
Wartburg coming up. Obviously, this is the Mendoza line for the last 2 NCAA tournaments, because back in 2020, this is where everything shut down, essentially. This year, or last year, is obviously where Trinity kind of surprised you guys and Amherst. This time you'll travel to another NESCAC school in Tufts. You've made this trip before. What are you expecting from Wartburg? What's the message this week leading into the weekend?
Obviously, Wartburg is a very good team. They beat Hope at Hope, which is a very tough game. They always have a good atmosphere at every game. We usually watch Hope and try and play together, a very good matchup. And just seeing the crowds that Hope brings out, just very hard to play there. And just congrats to Wartburg for that big win. Just ready to take on another challenge this weekend at Tufts. We're usually on the road, so just excited to get out there, have a good practice Thursday, and then into Friday.
What did it mean to get the games last weekend at home? I know the previous year was a bit of a sting. What was it like to be at the Freeman Center last weekend?
5 years of basketball here at CNU. My first time hosting an NCAA tournament meant absolutely everything. We had some pretty late games, 8:30 and 8. Still had a big crowd out there. Just thankful for the fans here, and hosting felt great, felt comfortable here, and had 2 great games.
Well, at least you're not in D1, where it could have been a 9 or 10 o'clock game. Craziness of all of that. again, I realize it's championship or bust, but when everything does come to a close, whether it's with a championship ring and the net around your neck or it's not, what's your memories going to be like of playing for the Captains?
Nothing but happiness. I mean, like I said before, it's like a family here. I know I'll have these girls forever, have the support of the administrative staff, my coaches, just made really good friends along the way, and just nothing but great things about this place.
What by the way, what's the travel plans? What do you guys have to get up to Tufts? What are you planning to do?
I believe we're flying out on Wednesday, probably having a practice here before we leave, and then just relaxing, enjoying our time in Massachusetts before we play on Friday.
Clif Carroll was just on the show. He's the head coach at Mary Hardin-Baylor. They're coming to the Freeman Center to take on your men's program. So the timing was totally on purpose on my part. We were talking at the end about what he should do for food. Coach K is trying to talk him into some barbecue. He asked me about crab cakes. I said, well, you're in the Chesapeake Bay region. That makes the most logical sense. But you're from there, and I'll be down there Friday. What should we be looking for in terms of the thing to eat?
Definitely seafood. There's a nice seafood restaurant on the water in Poquoson, where I'm from. And then I think the barbecue that Coach K is talking about is Smoke, which is right down the street from CNU. Okay,
so maybe we can dabble in both. I could dive into that. All right, I'm good with that. Hey, Sondra, really great to chat with you. I appreciate the insight on the team from your perspective. Obviously, being a student athlete, it's crazy. Before I have my final kind of salvo to let you have the final word, I am curious, all this play, all this focus on academics, have you thought at all about maybe going to Europe and playing a little ball before you settle into the rest of your life?
Haven't thought that far yet. Have a tough team against Wartburg. Maybe after April 1st, hopefully, I'll start thinking about what's the next steps. Nice.
Well done. Well played. I'll give you credit on that one. You even knew the right date. That was well done. It took me a second, like April 1st. Oh, of course. That's a championship game. Hey, Sondra, we appreciate it. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who are tuned in?
I just want to thank the fans that came out the other night, Friday and Saturday, and then just supporting us throughout the whole season. Just want to thank my teammates and my coaches and my family for all the support, and just want to give you a big thanks for putting a spotlight on D3 Hoops. Obviously, I think D3 is the way to go. I have it the best in academics and athletics, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming on, and I agree with you. It is the best, darn it all. Take care. Good luck this weekend. We'll look forward to seeing how it works out and maybe running into you down the road.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sondra Fan joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline presented by Hudl. Appreciate the time she gave us, especially with us running a little bit late. Tough team there. They're on a mission. Obviously, after last season, they're on a bigger mission. That Wartburg game fascinates me. It's just bonkers how good that could be. All these games are going to be good, let's be honest. On the other side of it, you've got Trinity and Tufts, by the way. Just good games across the board. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will pivot back to men's basketball. Talk to Pat Miller from Wisconsin-Whitewater. And again, we got some update from the women's committee. Again, I don't know the contents of it. I haven't had a chance to sit down and read it. But we will get an update on things there. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media. Once again, thanks to the NABC, the WBCA, Sport Tours International, and D3Hoops.com for their ongoing support of this Hoopsville product. And of course, for all of you who've helped donate, or 80% of the way to our goal. Only one donation during the show, which is a little surprising. I would love to hit that goal if we can. I was hoping by the end of the night. That doesn't look like it's going to happen, but maybe by the end of this coming weekend too. But plenty of chances. Please consider helping us pivot into our 3rd decade, if you can believe it. After 20 years, we're pivoting into our 3rd decade of covering Division III basketball. For Wisconsin-Whitewater, they got both programs into the sectional rounds, the women's and men. Of course, the women were all the way to the national championship last year before falling to hope like everybody did. Trine didn't once, but you know my point. For the men's team, it's been a little bit of a while since we've seen them to this point, but it's great to see the Warhawks back in the conversation. Pat Miller's got a good team on his hands, as I think he usually does. It sometimes just doesn't get noticed as much when you're focused on everybody else or a tough WIAC, and this year was a tough WIAC. Joining us on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline to talk about the tough season that was is Pat Miller. Coach, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Thanks for taking your time, or taking the time, not your time. It was my time taking anyway. How are you, sir? Good to see you.
I'm great. It's great to be here. It's been a while. Like I said, it's good to see you.
Yeah, no, it has, but I'm glad to have you. First, what's it like to have both programs dancing along? We just talked to Christopher Newport. We really got a sense of just the excitement generally sports have there. Whitewater is another one of those programs where sports being good is kind of synonymous with the campus life. What's it like to have both programs sitting here on sectional weekend?
It's great, and like your previous guest, who was great, talked a lot about culture, and Whitewater has a great athletics culture, and winning creates winning. You have a lot of driven people, and they're competing at the national level. You're seeing them have success, and everybody wants that. And that's Whitewater's been a great place for a long time, and a lot of success in different sports, men's, women's, wide range of sports. And obviously, our women's program has been exceptional for quite a few years now. And Carrie and I have a great relationship. Our teams support each other and feed off of each other. So it's a great dynamic. We're fortunate because I know a lot of places it is not that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Nice to see, to say the least. It was a wild season. Listen, we're used to wild in the WIAC, but I felt like it was on another level. And the only one who didn't seem to get scathed until the very end was Oshkosh. What was it like to be in the conference this season?
It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of parity, and obviously, like you, I've been around this a long time, and kind of my take on elements of this year, I just think there's really a lot of good teams, from 5 through 30 that, maybe 35, 40 even, that any given night can be very good. It seemed to me a lot of teams, if their key players played well and they got contributions from a secondary player, they could really elevate and beat anybody. And conversely, some of the better teams, if they had an off night from a player or not someone step up, they could lose just as easy. So I think the parity was good in our league. It made for fun, a lot of really close games, a lot of really tough games. And, it's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is that our league schedule prepares us for the NCAA tournament. We, play tough games every night. We see a lot of different things within our conference, and you feel good going into the tournament knowing you have that experience.
Season started with 3 straight wins over Augustana, Heidelberg, and Pitt Bradford. Then you bumped into Hope North Central and La Crosse in a span of 4 games, and they gave you your first 3 losses of the season. Then it seemed like things were back up and running, and you guys were clicking along. Then you got into conference play. Eau Claire, Oshkosh, River Falls, and then Oshkosh a second time. It's got to be tough to go through the ups and downs, especially as a student athlete. How do you keep everybody focused on understanding that, the world isn't coming to an end after you lose 3 or 4 games, or that, hey, we can handle this even if we've lost 3 of the last 5. We can turn the ship, and we know where we can be even if they can't see it.
Well, obviously every team's different, but with this team, we started the year with a significantly different roster than we anticipated. We lost our entire backcourt from last year. Gage Malensic chose not to play because of an injury. Tragically lost Derek Gray to a medical incident during the summer. So, there was just a lot coming into the year. We had a lot of youth playing guys that, they were starting that we thought maybe could contribute. And to this group's credit, they didn't panic. I thought our early games, losing to Hope, they had some significant players, some 5th-year guys, North Central the same. And what we just kept telling them is like, look, we're going to be better later. There's a lot of newness here. There's a lot for us to do, a lot of things we have to get into our system, a lot of understanding of reads and situations that's going to have to happen. So we were pretty positive with them. Their effort has always been great. Very easy team to coach in terms of that. They're very unselfish. They like each other. They have a common bond this year. So, really it was just more, what do we need to do to get better? And, we lost some close games. Both the Hope and the North Central game were very close. So how do we improve 5 or 7 possessions to get over the hump? And to their credit, they kept fighting. And, through the last month of the season, I thought, other than the River Falls game, where that was our dud of the year, where we just didn't play very well, we've been really good, and they've played hard, and we've made progress. And I'm really happy with the way they're playing right now.
You talked about Derek Gray there, something we were going to bring up. You guys, unfortunately, losing Derek in the offseason, that can be a tough thing to handle, whether it's off-season, in-season, preseason. It doesn't matter. It's a teammate. It's a brother. Tell us a little bit about who Derek was and how the team has kind of responded to all that.
Yeah, it's really been a major theme of our season. He was a spectacular basketball player, led us in scoring, rebounding. He was our best defender, exceptional work ethic, great team guy, great leader. The thing I like to say about him is he really had a unique ability. He connected with everybody, all his teammates, the managers, everybody he met. And, you learn more about people, through the process of the funeral and all the great people that reached out and supported us. Whether I talked to people that went to grade school with them, high school with them, Whitewater, it was all the same. He was a great guy. He made time for people. He was a kind person, exceptional athlete. So it was really, it's even hard to put into words how staggering a loss it was. And, for our players, many of them were there when the incident happened. And it really, when something like that happens, you have kind of 2 ways you can go. You can all come together and embrace each other, or it can become fragmented and people try to deal with it on their own. And to their credit, they really came together. They've supported each other. I couldn't be more proud of how they've paid tribute to him throughout the course of the year, whether it's, every practice we start with 4 push-ups, we break huddles with DG4. They wear shirts with DG4 on it. And he's not with us, but he's with us. And it's evident in their spirit. I don't know what it is, if it's spirit, if it's love, whatever it is, it's very evident and it's powerful. Coach Zimmerman from Emory texted me after we beat Oshkosh, and my comment to him was, we're playing with like amazing purpose. And he said, I could literally feel that through the stream. And he's right. It was there. And like I said, it's hard to describe what it is, but it's there. And I'm really proud of these guys for the way they've hung in there and supported each other, and thankful for the number of people who have supported us, our whole program, his family. It's been a horrible experience, obviously, but there's been some elements of it that have been positive.
not to dwell on it too much, but did the Damar Hamlin experience of that football game, did that kind of rip open the wounds a little bit for you all as well, since it hit relatively close to home in kind of the nature of it all?
Absolutely. It was, and it hit me really hard. You know, I was listening to it on the radio, got home and saw the scene, and it impacted me. And, you know, we've been fortunate. Our health services have been great. They've been around our team all year. They've reached out, and that was certainly a time where we reached out to them, because you're absolutely right. That definitely ripped open some wounds. And, you know, through this process, you know, and this is where I refer to the positive, I've had coaches reach out to me that have lost players and given me great advice. You know, they said, you know, just be vigilant, because people grieve differently. It might be 6 months down the road and you're going to have a guy in your office crying. And they're 100% right. It's still something that's very present. Still something guys are trying to deal with. You know, even, you know, I had a player say to me the other day, like, I don't know if I should even say this, but could you imagine if we had Derek? And, you know, almost guilty that he thinks along those terms. And so, like I said, guys have been great. The support has been great. And, but yeah, the Damar Hamlin thing certainly had an impact. So.
Well, the guys had to grow from it. They had to step into roles that Derek may have been filling. They had to understand maybe different expectations. You had a little bit of time to build from it. You had the season to build from it. You're building into this round of 16. Tell me about this team, because statistically we see that you've got, 4 guys in double figures. You've got a handful of others who contribute. Everybody seems to rebound. You share the ball well according to the stats. You get your steals, you get your blocks, but tell me a little bit about this unit and how it clicks.
You know, we have good athleticism. We've done a really good job attacking opponents, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line. We've gotten better defensively as the years gone on, and it's just it's a group that it may be one of the most unselfish groups I've ever coached. They don't care. They try to take advantage of matchups. They genuinely like each other. They support each other. And I think what's key with this team is we can score from different areas, depending on matchups. Our guards can score. We can score from the perimeter. Trayvon Chisholm, as well as Capstrand, can score inside. So we have balance in and game out. We can usually find a mismatch or two that we can try to exploit. And they, as the years gone on and they understand our system better, they've gotten much better at that. And we've just frankly had some guys exceed expectations. You know, Miles Barnstable, when I saw him play, no one was really recruiting him. And I knew right away he was going to be good. Did I know he was going to be this good, this fast? There's no chance. His brother's been great. And yeah. Trayvon, I mentioned him. He had flashes the previous years, struggled with consistency, didn't shoot well from the perimeter. And he's a guy who's really embraced playing for Derek, and his intensity, his intent, his improvement, his consistency has been off the charts. And, you know well how difficult it was to win at Case and how good they are. And Trey was fantastic in that game, rebounding defensively, offensively. So it's just a team that has a lot of spirit. We have good athletes, a lot of unselfishness, and they enjoy playing with each other.
By the way, I've triple checked this all day long. Miles and Delvin, the Barnstables, listed as a freshman and junior respectively. Are we sure? Because everything I see on video and everything I see on pictures, they look like twins, and I'm not convinced. Are we sure they're different classes? Are they twin? What do I don't know about these two?
I would accept Delvin being a freshman as well. I will not accept Miles being a junior, because I'd like to have them around. No, they're brothers, and they're great. They're best friends. They're
Fair.
Great kids. They're throwbacks. All they want to do is play basketball and do their schoolwork. It could be the biggest football Sunday or Saturday college football. Did you guys see the games? No, we were in the gym. So just great kids, easy to coach, fun to coach, phenomenal athletes. So he's been a big plus. And when you have a player like him who produces the numbers, and he's the nicest kid ever. Like, it's hard for us to get him to talk at times. So he goes about his business, and guys have really embraced him and his brother. So they've been great additions.
Yeah, Miles the freshman, Delvin the junior. I may have gotten those backwards because they look exactly the same. I'm having more trouble with the fact that at Whitewater, they don't know what's going on with the football team. That just feels a little surreal to me. Like, why wouldn't they know what's going on?
Well, they're focused. You know, Miles early on struggled a little defensively, as a lot of freshmen do, and things you don't hear from players very often. About mid-season, I said, "Hey, you're getting better defensively. You're making strides." And he said, "I just want to be good on defense so badly. I've been working so hard on it." And it was 100% sincerity. And
wow.
I have to be honest. I think that's probably the first time anyone's ever said that to me as a coach all my years. But no, great kids, and their work ethic is contagious. And that's one thing with this team. They work very hard. Effort is never an issue with these guys.
That's impressive. Tell me a little bit about the sequence here as we've gotten here. Obviously, it came with a conference championship against Oshkosh. That's impressive in its own, because Oshkosh obviously was the one to beat in the conference. They had gotten you by 19 in one game. They got you by 14 in the other. You got to be at their place. Just tell me, because, man, 92-79. Of all the bubble-popping games out there, I think the result of that one might have been the most surprising. Not the win, I mean the spread.
Yeah, the spread. We played exceptionally well, and we had to play Monday in the conference tournament against River Falls. They missed a 3 at the buzzer that would have ended our season.
Fair.
We had a really good win up at La Crosse in our next game, and I was pretty confident we needed to win the conference tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. And,
probably
these guys were very focused. They wanted to get in there, and we had we lost to Oshkosh by 4 the second game. In a really highly contested game.
You're right. I can't do math. You're right.
Yep. So that, I think guys felt confident. They knew we needed that win to get in the tournament. And I'm telling you, they played with incredible energy that game, incredible purpose, and shot the ball well. And it was, I've had a number of those games in my career where your team is just firing on all cylinders, and you just kind of sit back and make sure you don't get in the way, and make sure you sub guys in and out when they look a little tired, but keep the rhythm going. And they did that. Oshkosh is obviously a very good team, and they made their runs, but we responded. And I think, 2 things that came out of that. Obviously, 1, we got in the NCAA tournament, and 2, it gave them a lot of confidence that they could beat a team like Oshkosh. And, La Crosse had a very good year. They were a little beat up at the end of the year, to say the least. They weren't playing at the same level they did earlier just because of injuries. Guys were hurt, but still playing, just not at the same level. So it was a huge confidence builder for us, and they've carried that energy and confidence, the rest of the way. It's been interesting. I think we're 11 or 12-1 in true road games. So that's been an interesting trait with this team. Our only loss was at Oshkosh back in January, and, win at Heidelberg, who was very good. So they've been good. And, the game at Case was a tough physical game, a tough environment, and for our guys to respond the way they did, I was pleased, and it showed more progress.
You get Wabash in that first round. Of course, they've been to the Final Four last year. They had high expectations. They earned their way in kind of the same way you guys did by winning the AQ. Good battle there in that first game at Case. How did that one turn out? And was it what you expected?
It was, just watching. I think they're very well coached. Obviously they've been winning, getting to the Final Four. And one of my friends put it best. He said that they had a bunch of guys that are going to be good basketball players and playing until they're 50, and they're going to keep getting better and better. Just guys that know how to play. They were tough. They were physical. So that game was very much like I expected. I knew it was going to be a battle. A lot of respect for them and their program. And then Case was very much what I expected as well. Just really talented, great offensively, great ball movement, great combination of players. And, again, I knew that was a game we would have to elevate defensively and play better than we had in order to try to stick around. And I thought we did that to an extent. Some of their better players, we limited in terms of their shooting percentage. I thought we controlled their point guard, who's really good, reasonably well. When he can get a lot of penetration and set guys up, they're really hard to beat. So, again, with this team, a lot of it is just progress. We certainly made a bunch of mistakes in that game down the stretch that we need to correct. And, it's nice to continue to win, be in this position, but still go back and say, okay, the margin's going to get smaller. We have to get these things corrected, and that's what we spent a lot of time on today.
6 ties, 11 lead changes, but at one point, I think your largest lead was 11. This says late first half, but I thought it was maybe 9 or 10 at some point in the second half, and Case kind of ran back at you and took the lead. And I remember thinking to myself, and I wasn't able to listen to the game. I had multiple games going on, including the one I was sitting at working myself. I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is the test time. We'll see what happens here if Case can hold on or if Whitewater will get back in it. And suddenly I turned back on, and you guys were back in control of the game. And I know it ended up a 3-point game, so it was definitely back and forth after that. But those kinds of swings can just derail all the momentum. How did you guys rewrite the ship, as it were, after they got the lead and got back into it, and then withstand holding them coming at you?
Well, this team has had a pretty good calmness to them. And that doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, and we certainly made some at critical times, but they don't panic. And they just move on to the next play. They have pretty short memories. And like you said, we had a great run. They came back. Obviously, they're a good team. They're going to make runs. And, again, we didn't panic. We made plays. I thought we made some defensive plays. We just struggled a little bit. We had a guy slip versus their press. We turned it over. Another guy just turned it over. And to their credit, they hit shots, a couple of really tough, well-defended shots, which you expect them to do. But the overall calmness of this team has been pretty impressive, especially for their youth. We have one senior who's plays more a backup role, so we have all these guys back. So we're enjoying this. We're treating it as a learning experience, and just a good group and a confident group at this point.
Hopkins ahead. Team I would be willing to bet you probably never played before. At least that's off the top of my head.
You're right. We have not.
Yeah, a little bit like Case maybe in the sense of, but very different. I just mean that similar in the sense that when I watch the two teams, I see some similarities, but I'm not a coach. I don't dive in as much as you all do. What do you see with the Blue Jays? What do you see with Leffler's squad, and how do you think you match up with them?
I think they're very good. What jumps out at you when you look at them number-wise is how good they are defensively. Teams shoot low percentage from the floor, low percentage from three. They're dominant on the glass. I think they're +7 overall rebounding. And then offensively, very good movement, good motion, a lot of cutting, a lot of actions. They flow from one action to the other. Just clearly a good team, very well coached. So it's going to another challenge, and like I tell our guys, it's every game is going to be harder. It's going to be more intense. So we have to prepare accordingly.
I know it's looking ahead. You've got one senior on this team, in Earl Lewis, and really in terms of statistics, nothing against Earl, but everybody's back. Earl he isn't one of those guys who's filling up the stat sheet. So you bring everybody back from this. I know you don't want to necessarily look ahead, but you've got to be pretty thrilled that this is the experience they're all getting to put into their memory banks for next season.
There's no question, and that's why I thought it was so important for us to make the NCAA tournament. Even if we would have made it and not gotten through the first weekend, to have that experience, to see what it's like to go through that, because it's always easy, the second time or third time.
Yeah.
I remember, Augustana, when they were having their great young run, we played those guys when they were young and took it to them pretty good in the tournament, and they exploded on the back end of those guys. They were a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, and by their senior years, they were playing in national championship games. So the experience is valuable. It's been a lot of fun for me as long as I've done this. I don't know that we've ever played Wabash. I know I've never played against Case. We have not played against John Hopkins or at John Hopkins or at Randolph-Macon. So seeing some new teams, going to some new places has also been a lot of fun.
If you get a chance to stick around at least for the second game, I think the first game will be pretty good. But if you stick around for the Randolph-Macon game, which I suspect you will for scouting reasons, buckle up. That place is another place for that. And listen, I'm not trying to compare it to your place, certainly, but it's just amazing. And I that's what I love. I think I saw a Wisconsin team the first time the first NCAA tournament I was at Randolph-Macon. If Pat's listening, he'll remember because I was with him. And I thought that was cool. We kind of went away from that. I think it's awesome that you guys get to be at Ashland. And if you make it to the second night, I'll see you there. I'm looking forward to getting down there for Saturday's games. But congratulations. This is pretty awesome to see you guys in the tournament and get to chat with you about it. And just the what ifs are fun to talk about too, including for next season. I'll let you go, though. I've taken enough of your time. As always, though, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
My final thought would be one, is thank you for all that you do. Someone like me who's been around forever is well aware of the decades of work that you've done, how you've put Division III basketball on the radar, how you've made it so easy for us to see other teams. Long ago were the days where, we'd never see Randolph-Macon unless we saw them in person. You just, now with video and the scoreboard, easy access, we all get to watch each other. And it's, you've done a great service for a lot of schools and a lot of players and a lot of parents. And certainly know that it's very much appreciated.
Well, thanks, Pat. The guys certainly do a lot of heavy lifting. I'm glad to be along for the ride as well and do my part. And well, it's guys like you being on the show that makes it a lot easier for us. So I appreciate that as well. Again, hopefully I get to see you on Saturday if you're able to get past Johns Hopkins. But if Josh Leffler heard me say that, I deny it. I didn't say it at all. I didn't say, no, I wanted to see them. That's what it was.
Well, it'll be a good battle. I know that it'll be a fun game.
No, I'll look forward to at least watching it for sure. Hey, take care. Thanks for the time. Safe travels. We should have asked you. I assume you're heading out Wednesday?
Yep, we're flying out Wednesday. So travel day Wednesday and then get back to work Thursday and get ready to play.
Yeah, very good. Well, enjoy it. Take care of yourself. We'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
Pat Miller joining us on the Hudl Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate the time Coach had to give us, especially running a little bit late here tonight. Again, they got Johns Hopkins. That's a 4 p.m. Eastern time game there at Randolph-Macon. Should be a great atmosphere. Randolph-Macon on the other side of that, taking on Oswego in a battle of 1v6. That is going to be a bonkers good game as well. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. We have to talk about a few things, including Linfield men's basketball and some other updates. If you've got any questions, you can send them our way as well. Tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, etc. You're listening to Hoopsville presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studios. More after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're doing well. If you got questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3sports.com. Join us on Facebook or YouTube where we're live simulcasting the show. Facebook.com/Hoopsville, YouTube.com/D3Hoopsville. Want to circle back on the conversation we were having with the women's committee and the decision made to go to Tufts. We did get some feedback on that, and I think maybe what I said wasn't totally understood. We understand that it came down to Trinity or Tufts, and who got the right to do that based on the criteria that is set for who gets to host. Now, remember, this starts from the basis that Christopher Newport can't host because they are the top seed in that group, and the men are hosting, so the women have to go on the road. So that leaves us, the three remaining are Wartburg, Trinity, and Tufts. And ultimately, the decision was made to go to Tufts. And I indicated that the committee missed it, in my opinion, based on not sending it to Trinity. And what my opinion was based on is I think there was an argument to be made that Trinity is the higher-ranked team over Tufts, using the criteria. That's where I just disagree. I understand, looking at the bracket and looking at it all, that Tufts is in the position. I said this on earlier. That Tufts is in the position of number 2, Trinity is in the position of number 3, and number 4 would have been, though Wartburg blew it up, number 4 was Hope. So I understood that. I already knew that Tufts was in the 2 and Trinity was in the 3. What I'm trying to say is I just disagree. I think that Trinity's win-loss percentage in a 6-1 VRRO despite a ginormous difference in SOS, my leaning would have been to put them the 2. That's all I was trying to indicate. I think it may have been misunderstood. Yes, I think I was going down a further road saying if you really want to maybe change some things up and give Trinity it, despite already giving Tufts the 2, that there are other ways to do it. Whether I'm right or wrong on that is certainly one worth arguing and worth having a conversation about. But my point was strictly that I felt Trinity could deserve the 2 there, and that Tufts would be the 3. And I understand that Tufts has a ginormous SOS. I understand they have a 9-5 results versus regionally ranked. And this gets to the conversation we had with Rochester on the men's side getting into the tournament. Now, different win-loss percentage. So that's definitely a different conversation there. But my point about Rochester, and I said also earlier in the show, was I think at some point the SOS gets so far, and I mean on both directions. I also mean so far low that it's hard to measure, and so far high that it's hard to measure. And the results versus regionally ranked get sometimes out of whack for, listen, remember when we had results versus regionally ranked opponents, for those of you who do? And this is where I asked Bob, because I thought there were more higher numbers at that year, but I'd have to go back and look, and it's been hard to find that number. But I remember we got astronomical amounts of results versus regionally ranked opponent numbers. And it got to the point of being very hard to dive into. I think at some point you got to give credit, and I'm certainly not saying you don't give credit, but I think 6-1 versus regionally ranked opponents with a 1 loss on your entire resume, with at least an SOS that's pretty respectable. I did not look at non-conference SOS. In my opinion, I would have put Trinity 2. That's what I was trying to indicate, and as a result of them being 2, they would have hosted. And that's where I think the miss was. Listen, committee does a lot of hard work. I'm just disagreeing with them on that. They chose Tufts. So be it. That was a decision that was in the pod and in the bracket, and I see that. I do get the sense this wasn't there's parts of it behind the scenes that are difficult to go into, that I get a sense that it's also not cut and dry. Nothing is cut and dry. Listen, it'd be a lot easier if I could come on the air and say, hey, Trinity didn't even put into host this weekend. Or so-and-so didn't even put into host this weekend. And then the decision's cut and dry. I do get the sense Trinity put into host. So I want to at least eliminate that. So that's why it gets a little bit more complicated. I think maybe my point was misconstrued or misunderstood. Not misconstrued, misunderstood. I was trying to indicate that I felt you could argue Trinity being the 2. And I said also that in that potting and the way it was bracketing, clearly they were labeled the 3 and Tufts was labeled the 2. Not physically labeled, but if you read a bracket, if you don't understand how to read a bracket, the top team is usually the upper team. The number 2 is usually at the bottom. And then 3 is who 2 faces and 4 is who 1 faces. That's how the basics of it. Those of you who want to go into getting all 16 ranked, listen, maybe someday in our future, but right now it gets too complicated with geography. You can't always do that. But in this case, Christopher Newport was definitely 1. Tufts looked like they were the 2. Trinity looked like the 3. Hope looks like they were the 4. I just think there could have been an argument that Trinity was the 2. Because I think, if memory serves, they were number 1 in their region. And so, again, that's where my perspective was on it. And so when I say it was a miss, I think my argument is if Trinity was considered the 2, they go to Texas. And that's where it got missed. I hope everyone understands that. Maybe as I talk more, it just gets more complicated, and I apologize for that. We also need to figure out something in terms of the whole system. And I'm hoping to come out with a blog. I think our system works. I want everybody to understand this. We nitpick a lot. I think for the vast majority of this system, it works. There are extremes that make it complicated. And I feel we get stuck in those, and I'm certainly at fault for that. And I don't think that always is helpful. But at the same time, I think it can help turn and make things better. I've argued for a long time that SOS should be on a bell curve. I've argued for a long time that if a team gets through a season 25, 26, 27, whatever amount of games with no losses or one, that's got to carry some weight. And what I argued with Barry was when you get to 3 or 4 losses, that's where the weight comes off. And that the strength of schedule's got to have it. But when a team with 6 losses with a monster SOS is ranked higher than a team with 1 loss with, in reality, an okay SOS. It's not a sub 500 SOS. It was 521, I think. Then I feel there's a problematic message. And this was my argument with Rochester. Not everybody can go out and get a schedule like Rochester or like some of these others where they can bolster the SOS. And sometimes I think the SOS, and it's weird because the men's side I feel has gone too heavy on SOS, and we've said that. I've said that. I'd like them to come back a little bit. Women have moved away from win-loss. I no problem with that. I'm glad the rest of the resume is discussed. But in this one, it felt like it got a little too SOS heavy. That's just my perspective on it. I'd like it to be where the win-loss has a little bit more of a say to slap back on the other criteria. I'm not saying win-loss needs to drive the ship, but Tufts had 6 losses going into the tournament. Trinity had 1. Yes, Tufts had a 625 SOS and Trinity a 521, and that's a ginormous number. But that's where I think sometimes that's just no longer comparable. You can't sit there and go, well, that's so huge. It's that argument of 2 wins versus 0.03 in the SOS, 4 wins, 0.06, 6 wins, 0.09. NCAA stats came back and told the men's committee when they were doing that, stop. We cannot tell you that that's a legitimate line to make. This feels, when we get to these extremes, that's what it starts to feel like. Well, their SOS is so huge, it's going to make up for the 5 games difference in the SOS. And that's where I'm just like, can at some point Trinity just have the respect of getting through the entire season with 1 loss? Lancaster Bible back in 2016, I'd love to see them having gotten through the whole season. If they had lost, have respect for that, considering they got through a conference, even though their SOS was below 500. That's not, I don't know where the solution is there. Now, we could talk about pairwise, and Pat had a great tweet today. I didn't see the full context on it, but the question was, wise people have told me that pairwise is just a tool dependent on the proper criteria to be used as inputs, garbage in, garbage out. And we've heard that from Logan Hansen too. If we can tweak pairwise to work the way we want it, great. But here's a little nugget, folks. Pairwise is designed by how committees see their criteria. You know what's going to get revealed? Which one has priority? If they feel more weight should be given to SOS, then the next weight to win-loss, then the next weight to X, and the next weight to Y, then we're getting told the SOS is more important, and we now have our criteria in order. That's where pairwise may not be so great here, because it forces committees to decide which is the better part of their criteria and what they're focused on. Is that fair? But at the same time, you got to figure out, well, you can't have one thing equal to another because that shouldn't have as much. And this is where it gets complicated. So my point again, I just felt Trinity getting through the season with just 1 loss, target on their back, everything involved in that, getting through a conference play twice. This is where you could talk about the NESCAC only getting through it once. Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is where it's a valid argument. They only play each other once, except for the little 3 and the main 3. Whereas Trinity has to get through its conference in a bit of a different beast. I think that's where you have to go, okay, well, that's why Trinity's SOS is so high. Tufts is so high, Trinity's is lower. But Trinity got through all of that with just 1 loss. Tufts suffered 6. And in my opinion, I would have liked to have seen Trinity 2 in that case. So I hope that was, I hope that wasn't, I think it was misunderstood at the beginning. This decision was based on seeds. Tufts was higher than Trinity. And I think that's where this started to, unfortunately, go against Texas. And that's what I was trying to get at, if that made it. I apologize if that didn't make any sense. I fully realize that it may not have. And then on top of that, it's too bad that the way things are set up, whether it's as high as championships committee or higher up, we haven't figured out how to do better by how we divvy these things up. I don't know if we want to get into a rotational system per se, like we have men and women. I don't know what the answer is there. I promise you this, I'll be diving in with a lot of people who have good minds in Division III and trying to understand this better. It's kind of the basis of what I've been, Pat and I talked on a couple weeks ago, the idea of actually it was a week ago, wasn't it? Some of an insider type podcast, because I think these are the types of things we want to peel away and better understand and better grasp and better figure out better and improve Division III. And there's a lot of nuances that people don't fully understand. There's a very good chance, the committee set up Tufts as 2 and Trinity 3. Maybe the committee turned around and said, you know what, we're going to Trinity, and someone said, well, you can't do that. I don't know. This might have been higher up for all I know. Crazier things have happened. So my point is, again, I'm sorry to misconstrue or get anybody misunderstand. I just felt the argument was there for Trinity to be the 2. The bracket was not set up that way, so that was our alert. And I think I may have confused everybody when I was trying to say all that. So, there you go. Linfield men's basketball. Head coach is on suspension. It stems from what I was reading in articles today, from an incident at the Whitworth game. Now, remember, their season's over. This was at the end of the last season. It was at the Whitman game. Yep, that's what I'm trying to say. During a February 18th game at Whitman, Linfield University men's basketball coach, and I'm reading from Oregon Live, Shannon Rosenberg responded to a parent in the stands who was shouting, put the seniors in the final minute of the team's final game of the regular season. Unfortunately, the article disappeared on me. I used to be able to read it earlier. I will have to try and find another version of it. I don't have it memorized. I apologize. Put the seniors in. He apparently spoke back to that parent as the game was coming to an end. And as a result of that, the AD ended up suspending him. According to the article from Oregon Live, Rosenberg, according to the law, the university officials told Rosenberg that they wanted him to leave his job, quote, because of an unrepairable relationship with the university. Rosenberg hopes, quote, and this is according to the lawyer, he can return to his role and avoid damage to the Linfield basketball program and the university as a whole. The media and public relations person at Linfield confirmed that he's suspended but called it a personal matter and they would not discuss, and that there was an ongoing conversation with team members and others. Again, put the seniors in the final minute. According to parents sitting behind the team bench, coach turned around and said something like, look, if you want to talk to me after the game. Some parents apparently interpreted Rosenberg's retort as a threat, while others attending the game said he appeared to make clear that he wasn't going to deal with the criticism during the game. The team's senior night had been held during a prior Linfield game. Of course, they were on the road in this. This also gets into parents heckling. We've been down this road before. This gets into maybe a relationship at Linfield that goes deeper than just this one incident. I'd be surprised if this is what draws him a suspension. In my words, if you want to talk to me after the game, from a coach in a game, basically says, I'm coaching right now. Speak to me later. If you took that as a threat, maybe I needed to be there and understand your interpretation of that. I never would have considered it that way. According to Linfield University's Scott Nelson, an associate vice president for communication, a fan video of the 18th game showed an angry confrontation that lasted more than a minute, where Rosenberg at one point is gesturing angrily into the crowd and yelled, "Come outside after the game, sir. Let's have some words then." Nelson said one of the team's players put a hand on the coach's arm, apparently trying to defuse the situation. Well, again, I understand the anger of a coach, but I'm still not taking that as a threat, but maybe I'm naive here. Players and some parents said that they tried to talk directly to the university AD that week, but the director told him it was a personal matter he couldn't discuss. Several parents and some of the players, trailed by 2 campus security officers, then went to campus on the 18th, that was 6 days later, to try and speak to the president, Miles Davis, who was in a board meeting. Davis ultimately emerged from the board session and met with the group in the room for about 45 minutes. And they pleaded with him to read a stack of letters in support of coach and explanations of witnesses of what actually happened. Apparently Rosenberg had been brought into a meeting earlier that day with HR and told he'd be fired on the spot or could take 21 days to consider a proposed severance agreement, according to his lawyer. The AD emailed the basketball team telling the members that the coach is suspended was still in place until we have a resolution. Listen, we've had a lot this year in terms of decisions made by coaches, behavior of coaches, whatever you want to call it. They've all been different. We did reach out to try and see if we could talk to Coach Rosenberg. Understandably not available. Almost every coach we've reached out to this season has not been available in situations like this, whether it was at Albion, Concordia, Chicago. The only exception was Mary Hardin-Baylor women's basketball, where Morehouse was very happy to come on air and talk. But he had already been fired by that point, so there's some differences there. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. Shannon Rosenberg has been at Linfield for a long time, has a winning record. Led them to a conference championship not so long ago. There's an element here of, and I am a parent of a kid who plays in sports, I don't sit there yelling at a coach at what he's supposed to be doing. And I can understand a coach being pretty angry at a parent for trying to dictate terms of how he's supposed to coach in the moment. Should he be angrily telling a parent, I'll meet you outside? I don't know. But this is another example of where things have really changed in sports. And it's unfortunate. We'll see what happens, but from reading from that, it sounds like Rosenberg's going to be out at Linfield. I can't go on about anything else I've learned, but I do get a sense that there's more to it regarding his suspension and ousting from Linfield than just this incident. And I don't think it's necessarily behaviorally based, but I'll leave it at that. I'm going to say something based on the assumption that parents went too far. Okay, so bear with me. Maybe the parents didn't go so far. Maybe it's the coach. But I'm going to say this based on maybe parents going too far. It'd be really nice if parents would sit down and just enjoy the game. I know you're emotionally invested in your child. I know you're emotionally invested in what they have done. I know you are emotionally invested, sometimes financially invested, in what they have become as an athlete. But enjoy the game. Don't tell the coach how to coach. There isn't a coach I know out there who in the very final game of the season, knowing that there is no postseason to come, or even in that moment in the postseason game, there isn't a coach I know, and I've been one myself, who doesn't think, this is the last one, I should get some guys in. It doesn't mean it happens, though, especially on the road. At home, much more likely, you're in front of your home fans. It's senior day. Just enjoy the game. Stop yelling at officials. Stop yelling at game operations. Stop yelling at coaches to coach how you want them to coach. I saw a video the other day of a coach climbing over the stands and grabbing a hold of a parent who at one point was yelling across the bench at the coach during a timeout. Redonkulous, in my opinion. By the way, hats off to somebody who rounded up our tote board. Mind-blowing to me, to be honest with you. I don't understand the concept where parents feel that their word is what should be followed. Disappointing. And again, that's based on the assumption that the parents decided to tell the coach how to coach and tell him when to put in seniors. And he finally had enough and turned around and said enough and a few other words. And parents didn't like that, and they decided to yell back at him, which just escalated it while the game wasn't over. It's a shame. It's a shame we have individuals out there who think that they can, it's just disappointing. But we'll see what happens. The coaching carousel is up and running, obviously, and it looks like Linfield men's basketball will be added to that list. I don't want to see Coach Rosenberg go necessarily, but maybe this is a blessing in disguise for him. He can find a job somewhere else. Though, granted, this doesn't help his departure, and I think that's another part of this that frustrates me a little bit. But we'll see what happens from there. But we'll keep an eye on that one, and if we get an opportunity to talk to him, or we get to follow up on the Albion case, or we follow up on the Concordia Chicago case, we will do our best to bring that to you, whether it's next show, a month from now, sometime in the off season. We'll certainly do our best to do that. In the meantime, men's and women's basketball games get going this weekend. Should be an awesome tournament of games. Obviously less, so in other words, you can enjoy more on Friday the 10th. I will be at Christopher Newport for the games on the 10th. Then my plan is to head to Randolph-Macon for the game on Saturday. On women's side, they'll start off at 4:30. Trine and NYU will get things going. Those games are then alternated every 30 minutes. So 4:35, 5:36, 7, 7:38, 8:30. Yes, there's a 6:30 game missing. I do realize that. On the men's side, everything starts at 4, and everything is rotated on 15 minutes for the most part. But there's a little bit of a gap. So it's a 4, 4:15, 4:30, 4:45. Then they'll take the break, do the 7, 7:15, 7:30, and 7:45 games. On the men's side, it starts off with Whitewater at Hopkins at Randolph-Macon, then Nichols at Stockton at Swarthmore, followed by St. Joe's and Wheaton at Christopher Newport, and Oshkosh and Rowan at Mount Union. The women will go Trine NYU at Transylvania, Wartburg, Christopher Newport at Tufts, Rhode Island against Chicago at Babson, and Trinity and Whitewater. But we'll get a chance to talk about this on Thursday. Already sending out guest requests. Swarthmore men's basketball will be on the show. Who else have we already heard back from? We've heard back from some others. I apologize. Scanning my email real quick. Trine women's basketball will be on the show. I know we've sent out others. I just don't. Oh, we believe Wheaton men's basketball will be on the show as well. And we've got 3 others that we've sent out, and we'll circle back on as well. So those to look forward to on Thursday's broadcast. Hope you enjoyed this one. Went much longer than anticipated, but great conversations with all. Thanks to you who have donated tonight. We're 81% of our way to the goal now, and looking to push it beyond that if we can. I'm actually double checking to make sure I didn't miss another one in there somewhere. Getting recommendations from Christopher Newport on some places to eat. Thank you, Chip. Appreciate that. And with that, we'll wrap it up. I want to thank our guests, Brock Erickson from Nichols, Kole Vivian from Marietta, Deena Applebury from Mary Washington, Clif Carroll from Mary Hardin-Baylor, Sondra Fan from Newport, and from Whitewater, Pat Miller. And I'm going to try and go with the SIDs off the top of my head, but I may have to revert to my email. Yep, already have to, because I knew I was going to forget one at Nichols. No, it's Nick at Nichols. Nick at, right? Yeah, no, I'm right. Nick at Nichols. Hold on. There is one. Sorry, folks. I usually write these down, but today I actually didn't because I thought I had them all memorized. Anyway, so Nick at Nichols, Jeff at Marietta, Clint at Mary Washington, Sarah at Mary Hardin-Baylor, Rob at Christopher Newport, and Angela at Whitewater. There we go. I got them. I needed to figure out that one, and we were good to go. Thanks to all the SIDs for their help as well, for helping us get this show on the air. I want to thank Sport Tours International. We're already talking about next year's D3Hoops.com Classic. If you're still trying to fill out your schedule and you're one of those teams that thinks they've got a chance at getting to the NCAA tournament next year or need to be in a position to bolster your resume for such an opportunity, contact us. We'll get you in touch with Sport Tours International. We've got some great teams lined up. Looking forward to getting more there. Expecting a great group, and you should be part of it. Plain and simple. But, we can't take everybody. So if you want to get in on that, let us know soon. Again, competitive group out there. We want to have yours. But thanks to Sport Tours International for supporting us. Thanks to the NABs, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, and the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, the WBCA, for their continued support of this show. Thank you to D3Hoops.com as well, Pat, Ryan, Gordon, and everybody on the staff, and of course all of you who helped us get to 81% of our goal as we slowly inch our way up. We'll be back on the air Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road. If you want to talk Division III basketball, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.